You seem to really be enjoying this series in which I give you tips on how to become a better chess player. In this video, I take you on my journey from 2137 to 2200 in one day. I played 19 rapid games and 11 openings in those rapid games. I'll give you move-by-move instruction on all these 19 games, and at the end of each game, I'll give you general tips from the specific games we have just played. Okay, first game of the day, e4. My opening of choice, more tactical oriented. We're going into a Sicilian because they decided. Black decides the real opening. You know, you decide e4 or d4, and they decide the real opening. And then you can decide a variation. Back and forth. That. So d4, this is just common opening theory. What I want to do is I want to trade off these pawns. Get some good knights in the center. Develop my pieces as always. Here, if I go bishop e3, I believe there's knight g4. No, not immediately, because they haven't done d6 here. They've done a6, which is less good, I would say. So I'm going to go bishop e3 immediately, and then I'm going to go f3. Okay, e5. Okay, this makes a little bit more sense. This is like a, forgetting a Sveshnikov, but they've done a6 first, so I don't go to knight b5 usually. I'll just go back here. Now, looking at my opponent's plan, they're about to go bishop g4. Let's see if I can do f3. Knight takes, queen check, bishop f2, check, and bishop e2. This should be fine. So we're going to go here, bishop b4 and f3. Always very, very good to look at your opponent's next move before you do yours. And so now I know they have ideas with this. I know they have ideas with this. Okay. This is threatening d4, so I'm pretty forced to take. It's not looking good already. I might have to move this bishop a second time. Let me see here. Maybe I can do a3, forcing it takes, but then they would win a piece of material here. I actually don't know what theory is. My opponent did really well to get me out of my book knowledge. So I'm going to take here and go bishop d2, which is not really good. I'm not going to lie. Forces me to go back, and they can double my pawns from this. Howdy, been enjoying your YouTube shorts, and I thought I'd check the stream. Good luck. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the shorts. Thank you for being here, and I hope, you know, I'm as impressive as in the shorts. Okay, so here it takes, bishop d2. My plan is just going to go development and castle. Or development, and then long castle. Okay, they've decided to double my pawns. I kind of want to trade off these bishops. But if I do, I go into an endgame that's less favorable for me because I'll have double isolated pawns here. So I don't really want to trade queens. Castle things are good. Just be careful for checks. Check here doesn't work because of knight c5. This is what I do on my opponent's turn. But so far, I think castles is very doable. Okay, this is interesting. e4 opening up the bishop on g3. If I take queen here, I just need to look and see if it's not completely losing. I can go king f1. I can also go queen e2 here. And on castles, I can just take with the bishop. And then queen h4 check. I think I'd have king f1 things. Because queen f2 is not good because of bishop g3. Oh, no, actually, queen takes. Okay, this would be fine. So let's just do this. No, queen here. Castles takes. Rook e8, threatening f5. No, on f5, I could do check. Ho, 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 ho. Looking past the opponent's threat. Now, there's this immediately, which I forgot about. If I go here, I lose. Damn. So I go here. King f1. King f1 is always a good resort. It's just moving the king out, and once castles I can take. And they kind of have to take. I mean, unless they want to go draw back. They can't really draw back here because I have mate. Things like this. So now takes. I like my position as white. If we go in an endgame, the king being here is perfectly reasonable. I also have ideas with knight d4, undoubling my pawns, because this is my real weakness in the endgame, even though I'm a pawn up. It's not completely winning. Okay, so they draw back. This is logical, but it gives me the initiative, so I can start things. They don't really have threats here. No rook here, no bishop here. Bishop might develop with some rook here activities. But I mean, in the most part, I have the initiative to start things, okay? Initiative in chess means when you have the time to create pressure. So I created pressure on this knight, and I moved to a seemingly better position, hopefully. I hope for them. This type of things wouldn't work here. Bishop f4, not going good anyways. Okay, I'm down on time. Always have to take in the time. This is being threatened right here. I think I'll just go here. Okay, they might take. If they do, I'll undouble my pawns. Happy camper. I'll give them the bishop pair. I'll be a pawn up. You're always on my YouTube Shorts feed. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Kosh Report. Infrangilis, what's goody? Hello, Brev Nation. I love that. I'm waiting for their next move. Really, I think they're either going to go like some development move with this, or this would be a bit fake because there's no real threat from this. Sefer, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate it. Knight of 6. Knight takes. I've been calculating this. I kind of don't like it. And especially with this new rook here, this wouldn't work. Now, that kind of calculation is called a desperado, in which you just calculate take things and take things and take things. Dexter, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate it. They're taking a long turn. They might be thinking deep here. So whatever move they come up with is a plan, right? So you kind of have to read these types of things. Okay, I like f4, just like putting some heat under their bums. Okay, we have f4, knight takes, and I have some ideas with this. This certainly is not a good move against this plan, I will say that. That is a fact. But look, after takes, we create a lot of space for ourselves in the center. Knight g6. Interesting. I like this now. I like this a lot. This check, do we worry? Not really. But is this the best plan anyways? Not really either. Keeping the knight, I think this bishop is better though. Do we have bishop e2? I like bishop e2. Thinking far and wide here. Let's go with this. Maybe reorient the bishop to naysay this bishop's diagonal. If bishop g4, I kind of like h3 threatening this. Okay, queen here. We have some knight f3 things I like. We could also do bishop f3. Check. This would be kind of weak. My knight can't progress. So I'm thinking a move like this. So, by move of order, they can't take here, and they can't take here, even though they have a 3-on-2. Something like this would kind of fiddle with me, kind of thing. Kind of be annoying. Little annoyance. Maybe now this is okay. Check this. My king feels kind of safe. Uncheck things, I have this. They double their rooks on tempo, which I hate. So I wouldn't give that up. Okay, I'm a minute less. Minute down on the clock. Let me see here. This pawn is not looking too good. No, if I do this, they trade and they win the pawn. Okay, worst comes to worst, I allow check, king here, and then rook in, and I do this. Sounds fair, right? 1 second for the move is very good. And I've connected my rooks. We don't talk about that. But yes, they've connected theirs, I connect mine. It's kind of a trade of connected rooks. That's deep. Okay, we thought about this. If I do this, there's rook here. Okay. Interesting. This rook here would be completely losing. So we go here. That kind of wipes out my queen d4 plans, right? Now rook here looks spicy because I have to stay on this knight. And I'll go like here. Yeah, this is kind of curious. If here, this can be kind of crazy. And then I would do like bishop here. Do I have enough material for everything? I would have 2 rooks and a bishop against knight and queen and bishop. I really like this idea. It took a very long turn, which now I have to play quick for. Basically, we're cementing this e8 square so that this is less weak. Takes first, and then takes, check this. I have check, knight f8, and I not only do I like my position, I have bishop c3. If they stay on this diagonal, they're good. If they go off this file, or rank, sorry, I'll have bishop b4 picking up the knight. And my pieces are all active for equal material, because I'm already up a pawn. And this is weak, and my rook is on their bottom rank. I would have very active pieces, aka compensation for the loss of this pawn. Maybe this is a better move. I would still do this, defending here. But then I can take, check, king f3. Check, king here. Interesting. Okay, they didn't go as deep as I did, which is fine. Can I do these things? Takes. Kind of love this. Kind of trading pawns here. Unless they take with the rook. I didn't calculate this. This might be stronger. No, I wouldn't do king f3. I would do like bishop here. Boyden pawn. Thank you so much for the bits, Bratwurst. 2200 gold today indeed. Yes, sir. Okay, knight there. If this takes, it's interesting too. Takes. And if this, there's takes. But there's check. Call an ambulance, call an ambulance. Is it for me though? White has at least a... Black has at least a draw here for sure. Down to a minute. Thanks for the bits. Call an ambulance, but not for me. Getting out of the pin. Accepting a fate of probably a pawn here, which is fine. I'll just trade everything and take on a6. And if they take with the bishop, I kind of like my position. If I take here, check. Medium. Well, I can take this. Perhaps that was too not well calculated. We'll see. On check is there queen e2 though. I like queen e2. Keeping on the defense of this bishop. Hello, hello. Okay, queen e2. Queen e2. Done fast. Remember, you guys, there's back rank on the back here. Back rank checkmate. Bishop here, I believe there's f5. Always calculate on your opponent's time. Pure attacks on this queen. We're trying to trade everything down. We're up 2 pawns in the endgame. In a bishop pair endgame, 2 pawns up, knowing this, is completely winning. So we're just going to go on and trade. Yeah, we can even keep the king out. And we're just going to hike up this pawn, the most exterior pawn. Now, this bishop taking this diagonal is very strong. Should have done this, maybe. This bishop can be out of play. Okay, we're going to bring in a second pawn. Look at this, saucer. Saucy. Hope it's not mate. We have 20 seconds left. If takes. Oh. King f2. Nice. This bishop is trapped. Low time. We won on time, but we were winning in the position. Let's go! Let's go! I'm celebrating, which I apologize for. I'm celebrating because of one thing. It's very hard to enunciate every single move of a game, of a 56-move game, and still win. The best way to watch this video is to try to predict my next move at every move, try to predict my opponent's next move, take notes when you get some real value, pause and rewatch this video as much as you need. Understanding these topics is key to your growth as a chess player. And finally, have fun learning. This game's title was a recovery from a bad opening. As you saw in the game, I had double isolated pawns, a king in the center. Things were not going well, but there's a couple tips that I have for you that I did in this game that really helped me pull through into a winning endgame. Tip number 1, never get discouraged. This happens all the time, even to the top players in the world. Getting out of a bad opening is part of chess and you need to pull through. That's on the mindset of things. Tip number 2 of what I executed and you saw me execute it is calculate double. Calculate double for you, calculate double for your opponent on you, especially on that opponent front attacking on you, especially when you're vulnerable. This helped me do some moves that countered well against some of my opponent's pushes for advantage, and it kept me living, it kept me surviving. And when you counter most of these blows, your opponent will get tired of attacking and eventually push off. Tip number 3, which I did, was make trades. Trade off pieces of equal strength when you have the advantage. After acquiring that weak e4 pawn of theirs, I traded down as much as I could so that in the endgame, I could at least be surviving, or in this case, winning by 2 pawns in a bishop pair endgame, which is very winning in chess. I also like, when I already had a pawn up, was gathering extra material when my opponent was attacking me and was fumbling a bit. So when your opponent fumbles, get that extra material, get that greed in when it's safe, so you can acquire more pawns and accumulate small advantages over time, so that when you trade off and when you get to an endgame, you're already winning. Final tip for this game is check your time and play accordingly. I had 30 seconds or less for a good part of the game here. It's really important that you check your time all throughout the game, keep looking at it, keep managing your time. It's a big factor of the game and can influence even the end stages of a really hard-worked game. So check your time and play accordingly. At the very end, when I had 30 seconds left, you saw me play very, very quick. So that's what you need to do as well. Next game. Hello, Matt. How are you? How are you? How are you? Okay. E4. We're going into a French defense. Know your theory for these openings. I'll go c3, defend the pawn attack with the pawn attack. This is easy to remember. Usually they go knight c6 in most cases, and you'll defend the knight with the knight on d4. This move I'm not too familiar with, but I know that this is the idea. I'm just going to do the usual. I'm going to try to push for b4. If they go c4, I'll go immediately b3. a5. Interesting. Can I take this? Yeah, we'll just go into it. Not sure if it works, but I think... Ooh, it kind of doesn't. Takes, and there's knight takes here. Interesting. Okay, we can do an anti-Meran type vibe. So let's do bishop here. If bishop takes, we go b4. No, there's bishop takes. Okay. Well, that was bad. They were threatening to take here. They still are. That still works. I'm crazed at that. That's a good shot. Though I like takes, bishop takes, also preventing me from castling, but I like b4 now. We conserve the c5 pawn that was being threatened for a long time there. And here for this castling issue, I think I'll just go knight d3, kind of block this out. Castle, bring my rook to e1, and then bring my knight back out once this diagonal is clear. Also, hitting on the bishop can be good. Okay, knight here is threatening two things. I can take, but I don't like it. And I can defend here, but I also don't like it. Takes, and knight takes b4, right? We are all seeing that. I like this. This is the only defensive move, I believe. So here we're defending the rook, which means we are defending this pawn. And we're defending this knight. What's up, Sahil? Moderator Sahil in the house, everyone. Okay, very good move. Attacking a lot. A lot of pressure. A lot of pressure. Kind of don't like this for me. Okay. This is being a huge threat. Huge threat. Okay, I'm willing to do in this, and in this, which minimizes damages. I will lose a pawn. Whoa! Queen takes with check. I completely missed that. Wow, because this was defended last move. Okay, yeah. Totally oversight by my... Yeah, this is completely losing. It's all about calculation. Once you stop calculating one line, it can be detrimental to the whole position. Here, I don't like this bishop, though. We're down a piece, but... And now, that wasn't the best move. Taking here was the best move, threatening mate. And now I can hide. Oh no, it's mate! I forgot to mention, in these 19 games, I didn't win all of them. I had 6 losses, and we're going to look at these losses in depth, especially in this one, in which I lost in the opening, and in a big major time I blundered. And we're going to see why it came to that, and even before the blunder, it was very losing. So let's look at this in detail, and I'm going to give you tips to avoid losing in the opening like this in the future. Okay, so we start off this game in the opening. The French defense is fine for me. I've been playing against it for over 15 years. But the move order that my opponent played, knight e7 first and then a5 second, is super weird. And to me, it gave me kind of an ego boost, should I say, for lack of a better word, to take this pawn. And this was the first mistake of the game. And I feel like from here, it was downhill. Tip number 1, in an opening that you don't know, is don't take candy from strangers or from an opening you don't know. In this opening, I don't really know this formation. I should have just gone conservative. Knight f3, bishop d3, normal moves that you would find in a French defense with a short side castling. Instead, I don't develop, I move my pawn early, and I regret it. Because now I have to play bishop e5, which is easily countered after this pin is erased, and now knight takes e5 is threatened, and after knight f3 is possible. And so here, even a brilliant move. Ouch. Insult to injury. And so here I already lose back that pawn that I won with a weak pawn on c5 still standing. And so from this, I just try to hold on to my extra pawn. In fact, number one move here is c4. Very interesting. Giving an extra pawn, and after bishop takes, queen f3 is what the engine says, threatening mate, but obviously queen f6 is what the engine says is the best here, which is quite counterintuitive as you're giving black another pawn for free while your other pawn on c5 is still weak and being threatened. And so here after knight c6 is where my troubles just get worse. If I were to take this knight, b takes, and then the bishop will for eternity hold me from castling short, it will be very tough for me. I think I have to play knight c3 and then knight e2. Difficult plans. And if I defend, as I did in the game, another mistake, it lets knight takes e5, which my opponent missed, bishop takes, and now queen g5, and this fork is very painful. In fact, I'm losing a pawn here. After bishop g3, queen f6, attacking this rook, rook a2, and now b6, attacking my pawn chain, and I cannot take here because of the vital bishop takes b4 check. This pawn is pinned, cannot take the bishop because this rook hangs. Instead, my opponent played queen g5 here, still very crushing. I had queen g4. Big move, would have defended here. After queen g4, queen takes, knight takes. After h5, I have knight back to e5, and I guess I survive. My pieces are not doing the best, but you know, I get to conserve my weak pawn on c5, and it could be worse in this position. And now goes exactly the advice I said from last game onto this game. When you're in a bad opening, calculate double, calculate everything double. And we see the proof here. I did not calculate double before playing my move here. And after knight c3, this is completely losing, -9. I won't go over the rest of the game because it's just so completely losing. I should have resigned right here. It's -10 in this position, so black have the equivalent of a queen up when I lose a piece worth 3 points and a king in the center in this position. Awful. But we learn from our mistakes. It was so hard to win the game, and losing the game was so easy. Tough times. Okay. I was trying not to do the same gambit, which is my preference against b3. Same gambit is my own opening, for those who don't know. Okay, against a b3 opening, Nimzo-Larsen. Just play normally, close out this bishop, and develop. I like this pin. On g4, I would play definitely bishop g6. We're threatening check, so they're castling next. And now we can go 97, c6. Yeah, that was quote worthy. It was so hard to win, and losing the game was easy. 'Tis what it is. What is the difference between 2100 and 2800? Better intuition, way better calculation. Way better opening knowledge too. Okay, I'm thinking this, and if they do this to trap my bishop, I can take here. It would be super aggressive line. I'm excited to see this. Okay, so this is threatening knight f4. It's like actually a serious thing. Okay, knight here. Now I just like knight f4. I think they should at least try g4, maybe with a little edge. But this is threatening to take the bishop. We're always wanting to take that bishop pair, especially in these semi-open positions like this. My opponent's thinking a long time. Don't know for why. Usually this means they're either looking at something ambitious. Bishop f5, okay. Not that ambitious. I don't know what it does. Should I go here? have some interesting moves. This is an interesting check, but we need to look at that. Kind of like this also. No follow-up. No follow-up. Maybe we should start something on the queen side. Not by giving a pawn. Oh, maybe they were looking at g6, seeing if it works for them. Let's trap our own bishop. Interesting move. Very interesting. Engaging with g4, bishop here. This is the only thing I calculated. I actually didn't calculate this. I looked at knight takes. My bishop is trapped, taking the defender off. Right? If they take... Nah, this is really good. This is really good. I really, really like this. We're opening up the queen too. Yeah, this is completely winning. We have 92 in mate. That's done. Barsh. Nice! I have a few tips to break down how I beat this opponent in 17 moves. Here they are. When you see an inferior opening played against you, clearly inferior like b3 or any extracurricular opening that doesn't take up the center, take the center yourself, develop your pieces quickly, and castle. And that's exactly how I executed in this game. Took up the center with my 2 pawns, developed my minor pieces, and castled short. Tip number 2 in this game, after developing and castling, find a plan, stick to it, and see it through. And that's exactly what I did in this game. I don't know if you recognized, but I moved my knight 5 times in this slim 17-move game. That's 29% of my moves were this one knight, going to c6, and then doing a maneuver to g6, and then doing a maneuver to f4, and then it being the crucial piece of that checkmate with the knight e2 in between check, forcing the king to the side of the board, to which I would play checkmate next move. Short tip number 3 for this game, the second I saw knight e5 played on the board, I looked at that f4 square and I loved it. Look at your key squares and take them. Knight f4 was a great move to try to take off the bishop pair and putting a nice knight around that kingside castle, which became fruitful in the later stages of that game. Tip number 4 in this game actually led me to victory. In the seconds before I play the move g6, which ultimately gives me a winning line, I look at 5 different moves and ideas and kind of just juggle with them. I looked at bishop e2, I looked at knight e2 check, I looked at why don't we go on the queen side with a b5 push. I looked at a lot of moves before I went on this nice g6 move, and that leads me to tip number 5 of this game. Recognize when your opponent's pieces are vulnerable, and in this position, it was oddly this bishop on f5 that was extremely vulnerable to g6, to which it only had one good square, which was bishop d3, giving up the bishop pair and not too good positionally for the white pieces, which led them to make a mistake and play bishop g4, which led to the victory. And finally, tip number 6, look at your tactics, even if they don't work the first time around, which did happen in my calculation in this game. You'll see the first time I calculate this around, it's kind of funky. I don't have it clear, but when bishop g4 is played after the g6 move, I know it by heart what I have to do, and I know that I'm winning at least a piece if they don't take back my bishop on g4. I lose the next 3 games, so let's see how I could have improved myself in these games. Noise. Okay, game 3 against this person. Hopefully a person. No beads. Okay, d5. Okay, again a French. Are they gonna play the for real? No. Okay, I kind of like what I got, but we're gonna mix it up. Knight f3, and we're gonna go bishop d3. It's a saga. 1-1. b6. Interesting. My plan might just be like just pushing this pawn up. Okay. So they're trading off my good bishop. Good for them. This is kind of annoying, man. Kind of annoying. But no, still nothing. But this is a tempo. Okay, this knight is on a weak square. It is a tempo. We have to use it wisely. Let's do this. Trade off my technically bad bishop of the French. Trying to move over these knights. Okay, this is my playing ground. I want to go f4, f5. Okay. Always keep this in mind, you guys. Okay. They're opening up their open file, which is very, very good. I'm going to go a3. I want to restrict any knight b4 things. Especially for c2, weak square, you know, this would be a fork. How about this? I like this. On knight c4, they lose a piece. So they kind of have to go here, which is really nice. I like that. Making them make bad moves. And, okay, I don't want to go b4 because this knight will be solidly placed on c4. If they go on c4 voluntarily, I have b3. No, I don't. Interesting. All to say I want to go h4. I want to go knight g5 here, force a g6. Okay, h6 is interesting. Yeah, that kind of blocks my knight g5. Good playings by my opponent. Knight g3 here. This b2 pawn is very important, taking up this c3 square. I don't want the rooks to infiltrate on tempo. At the same time, my knight having to be kept here for not playing f4, f5 is tough. We might just play this here. On rook c2, I'll go rook e2, trying to trade off those doubled rooks. Pair of rooks is strong there. Okay, just rook b1. And I think this patience is good. It's actually closing up this file for black. Kind of like this. And here we're going to maneuver our knight to g4. Potentially with this nice pawn march. On queen h4, it doesn't really do much. This knight is defended. This pawn is defended as well if this knight is defended. And now we can go f5, I believe. Yes, there's also no distraction for our queen. So, right, because this would be the defender, we want to try to take off the defender. There's no decoy for, oh, bad pre-move to make by accident. But yes, you don't want black pieces to have the ability to decoy. What? The F. Oh, with rook c3. Interesting. Okay, I have one move before they can do this. And then, is this losing? Is this winning? What is up? Very interesting tactic. I think I have to go for it. I have to take. No choice. Rook c3. Queen takes out b5. Takes g3. Kind of like this. Okay, here I'm defending my rook on e1 by blocking and supporting my pawn. Now, they can take, but it's not that good. Let's take here. Kind of forced. You don't really want to do this because of check. And here this would get into some nasty things for black. Though, can I use this as a tempo move here? What's best? I don't see much for black once the knight is in. So we're just going to use this to our advantage. Shall we go here? Okay, we have time. On queen b6, decoy the knight, sorry, and pressure the e6 pawn. I think black would just defend the knight. Just slows down my attack. Black has no threats here. No, they don't. Okay, we're threatening check. Maybe up here. Or maybe knight f3. Just swiping off. No, not knight f3. I don't like knight f3. Never mind there. Now, this could be fire. Also, if the rook is off of this bottom rank, I think I have mate here, which is fire. Fire to keep in mind. Oh, no, queen takes. Okay, never mind. And this is defended by the queen. Okay, this is important information to intake. Okay. Keeping the position alive. 8 minutes to 5 minutes. Tough times. Also, I'm leading a tougher position here. Rook c1 looks good for them. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. There's no this, unfortunately. Fire would be to have this, so we would have back rank things. So this is the line. Also, this is fire, maybe. Yeah, I'm playing subs. I'm adopting subs this Friday. Knight f2 and this. This is a long time ago plans. Okay, that's okay. Is there plans to do this? Most probably. Would I take a draw then? Most probably. Knight here, king here takes. Oh, it's not draw. Oh, wait, that's mate. Wow. Well done, king. Well done. Yeah, that's over. Here are 3 general tips that I have about this specific game for you. So tip number 1 is understand your opponent's plan. And this is a big factor in the French. You need to understand what your opponent is doing in 4 and 5 moves. And this is costly for me as soon as move number 7, in which I do castles. A pretty innocent move, right? What I should have done is play queen e2, understanding that they played b6 last move, to play bishop a6, to exchange off my really good bishop. And once I castle and bishop a6, the trap is done. My bishop is pinned technically to my rook on f1, and I have to trade or else they'll trade on my bishop. By doing queen e2, I understand my opponent's plan, and there's no bishop a6 coming, and I can serve my beautiful light squared bishop in the French. Secondly, after everything is traded off and development is complete, I need to understand that my opponent is trying to take on d4, open up the c file, and then bring a knight to a5 to then go to c4. I fail to understand this, but if I had this in mind, I would have surely come up with a plan a3 to go b4. This plan is very common in the French defense and has for a goal to prevent any things to happen on this a5 square. No knight a5 would come in, therefore no open c file because this knight wouldn't move out of its square and the white pieces would be very safe. Tip number 2 is identify the ultimate goal in your plan. In this position here, I know I'm about to attack. I know I have the ingredients or the pieces to attack, but I fail to really pierce into the opponent's position. I go h4, that's really good. I'm trying to go knight g5, forcing g6 or f5, 2 really weakening moves in the black castle. h6 is countered, very nice move to take up the g5 square. And here I play knight g3 and h5, both moves that don't correlate together, and you'll see that my attack is slowed down and I end up giving a crucial square on h4 to come up with another plan f4, f5. What I should have done here is reassess the plan after h6, because now my plan is over, and come up with g4. g4, a very aggressive move to go g5 and attack this black castle. Let's say once rook fc8, I'll go g5, and now after h5, we have created some space for ourselves. We can pierce with g6. g6 attacking these pawns, and if you take, you have some really bad backwards pawns here, and I go knight g5, taking this very nice square for my knight, and now I have some attacking possibilities on two of black's weaknesses that I've created. And after I failed to identify my clear-cut plan, and I played a really bad inaccurate move like knight h2, letting in this queen on h4, because it gave up this h4 square, here we go to tip number 3. Identify what your opponent is threatening deeply into your position. And so, playing f5, missing knight takes b2, which is a clear-cut tactic that I should have spotted. And here this delivers the c3 square for this rook, winning this knight, and it's much more than just winning a pawn overall. Here the black pieces have infiltrated my position on two fronts, right? The c-file and this diagonal in here on the g3 square, and it was very hard to recover this because the black pieces are just in my position and my king is weakened from my pawn pushes up, and two of my pieces have to cover my king. This leads to a big weakness that costs me the game ultimately. So there are my 3 tips for this loss. Okay. We're each winning with the black pieces. Pretty rare. Let's do this. Let's just create a deep route against this bishop here. I don't like e5 coming in. I'm gonna do this. Knight takes, threatening my bishop. I have some aspirations to do d5. Can you make a fine living out of streaming? Depends how many subs you have. Depends how often you stream. For me, I was very lucky to already have a following before streaming, and I built from that. So I think when you're starting out, it's very difficult to crack 1,000 if you don't have prior. You know, like I was a content creator 4 full years before going on Twitch. I think that helps. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's easy. d5. Kind of like my pawn structure, though I would love it to be staring this way towards the king. It's a bit better. I feel that my bishop is bad here. I'd be down to just weaken myself a little bit more. Knight f4, very, very strong because this bishop is on b2. We learned that from last game. Let's do this. Do you play League of Legends? No, I actually don't play video games. Except for... No, chess is not a video game. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Takes. Kind of want to get here. If they take, I'm happy to take with my knight. Oh, that's a good move. Wait, no, I can do this. This is pinned. If I had to move this, they could take the pawn and this is completely over. Oh, I kind of like this. Very explosive. I'm down. Whoa. F takes g3. Taking back with the h pawn. Fight for the file. Can't believe I lost a piece there. That was tough. Whoa. Okay, king safety. Not gonna lie, there's not much explaining to do. Everything is pretty much forced here. Threat was this. Getting completely outplayed. Queen f7, queen d7, jeez. Okay, they win this one too. Jeez. In this game, I was losing after only 16 moves. So let's learn from this together and bring it to general advice so that we can use it in other games for the future. Number one, I should have put more importance on pawn structure. In this game, my pawn structure was very sore. I had a weak e6 pawn on a semi-open file with this rook attacking this pawn. My light squared bishop was constantly behind my pawn structure to defend that e6 pawn, and in turn, that was a bad piece. And the second I get to push e5 is the second I lose a piece 3 moves later on move 19. Which brings me to my tip number 2. Never close out your bishop when preparing your pawn structure. Make sure that you bring the bishop out first and then develop a pawn structure on those squares so that your pieces are active versus passive. Those were the main points gathered from that game. Hold on tight, we have a last loss and then it's going to be a lot of wins for the rest of the video, so hold on tight, you guys. Tough. Let's go this f4 line. Okay, let's do this. c3 to do d4. On d4 itself, I think I would just trade in bishop d3. Okay, d4. Yeah, this player is a big French defense player. Anamaya in disguise for facts. Let's play a bit quicker too. Bishop e2, just development. I just want a castle. Okay, let's give a pawn because I think I'm losing a pawn here. I didn't see that. I should have gone king h1. That's tough. It's a tough break. I think they're calculating this and bishop here. Okay, now bishop here. This is at least uncastling their king. I kind of like this a lot. I think this was a big mistake. This now. A lot of initiative, gain of tempo. Threatening this. Whoa. That's, now we understand that. Still, I'll do h3 and still threaten this. They don't see. My mission is to have more time left at the end of this game than my opponent, because I've been lower on time than these entire 4 games, I believe. Okay, check. b6 is no posible. Okay, this is going to be very strong, getting c7. Reason why I'm doing this is that d4 will never be good for them now because I'm attacking their queen. So let's say d4 check will not be good. Knight here, king h1, d4 check will not be good. And now this surely wins. Doesn't this win? b5. b5 is good for them. Jeez. This fork. b5, I can't defend my bishop. What is this mayhem? No, I can't go back to c2. What am I doing? Oh, I had this plan and they take on a5 when we go to queen c6. So slow. What's up, Chess Acer? How are you? What you doing? I'm trying to explain move by move of rapid games. We're losing 3-1 and I lost a piece here. So, oh my god, queen takes c2. This person is crazy. Hope for a draw here. I'll take. Ay, ay, ay. How is it completely losing? In this game, things were different. I was already down 2-0 in the French defense against this opponent, so I had to come up with something new. Therefore, I played something in the French defense that I know less. The de la Bourdonnais variation, which involves playing f4 first, so you can push these pawns quicker when you're trying to attack the Black King. My tip number 1 for you is to find out how and why things went wrong in the opening. With the help of the engine, sometimes this can really help. In this game, after less than 10 moves, I failed to defend this d4 pawn. The queen goes to b6, and yes, in the video I say, okay, I'm gonna give a pawn, but really I was losing a pawn after 10 moves. How does that happen? And here you'll be open to find out that during the opening stages, at 2 times, the engine says knight a3. So clearly I missed an idea with knight a3, a very good clue, right? And it's true, I should have played knight a3 either here at the very beginning or after playing c3. The idea of knight a3 is that I create a pocket of air for myself on c2, and when the black pieces develop, let's say queen here, I go knight c2 before playing d4, and so this assures that when I do play d4, this pawn is ultra well defended by both knights and my queen. By playing my knight to c3 instead, I cannot defend this pawn on d4 a third time, and if I were to go knight b5, my knight would just be kicked with a6 by the opponent. Tip number 2 is another mistake that I did, which a lot of chess players are guilty of. And here is referring to my own bias when calculating variation. In this position on move 19 after h3, I completely stopped calculating this g4 line out of fear of d4 for the black pieces. Discovery check on my king, and then I thought it would just be mate in 2 with king g1 and queen g2 checkmate. But in fact, here I have the better queen f3, and this variation saves me. Here it's only -1 for the black pieces, which is really a leg up from the past 5 moves in this game, and here we would have been equal, potentially going into an endgame in which I have chance at not only drawing but also winning. Instead, my bias skewed towards more attacking this queen on c6, and I played a move like rook c1, attacking the queen, which led in this in between check, h takes g2 check, king takes, and now queen a6, the fork that I couldn't defend against in the game and was struggling heavily against, which ultimately cost me the game because once we diluted to an endgame, I had a piece down. So when deciding between 2 lines, calculate as objectively and rationally as possible. Let the intuition come in at the end of the results of both lines, and then you can make a decision based on what you feel better in that final position. I started this journey at 2137 rating at the beginning of this video, and now we're at 2126 rating. So let's see how it goes for the rest of the video from here. Okay. e4. We're playing a 2300. This would be a great game to walk you through how I do this. So we're going into the Sicilian. Know your openings and how to identify them. This is attacked. We defend with the knight, while developing the knight. Okay, h5. This is a bit early to play that. I'm going to play f3 first, so I don't go walk into bishop e3 and knight here. I'm going to do this, threatening knight d6. d6 is covered. We're going to go into a typical Sveshnikov. a6, we're going to go knight a3. Good games, classical thinker. You're good. You're good. Very tactical. I got outplayed in all those French defenses. Jeez, I need to work on that. Bishop e6. Okay. Let's go bishop e2. Just a castle. Maybe do this. Let's see here. Kind of want to go here. Threatening bishop takes f6. Looking good. Kind of forcing g takes. Okay, we'll go knight c4. And if something like this, I think I can go like on e3 and then reroute to d5 here. Okay, let's force this takes. On takes, and then I'll go knight e4, right? Knight e3. Good. So, fixating the square. Let us go here, takes, and I'll have here. Okay, rook c1. Saying goodbye to maybe castling. I don't think I will castle. I don't think they're castling either. So, right on schedule. Okay, undoubling their pawns. Don't know if I like this for black necessarily. I think it'll feel good for them once they undouble. Let's see. This would be a good time to castle. Kind of like castles. f4 could be let in if I don't take. Do this. Let's do this. Takes, bishop h4 check, g3. I think we're okay. I like to castle now. My king's feeling a bit open. And we'll have the open f file. Okay, this was a mistake by my opponent. Take it with check. Good vibes. Castles they can take here. Again, not easy. I don't like taking here finally. I think the queen is going to go to h4. Or threaten it at least. Ooh, spooky things here. The queen goes out. Let's take. Taking castle. How about that? Good deal. Fresh. King's in the center. We're a pawn up. Okay, rook takes c3. Don't know why you would. Oh, okay, interesting. Does this work? Queen f7 though. I think there's a flaw here. At least takes. Once they take my bishop, I'm saying. And if here there's check and mate. The checkmate slaps on this one if they go here. Okay, it's what I call being back in it. Here are my 4 tips on how I beat this 2300 player in only 23 moves. Number 1 is recycle pieces that are out of play. As you may have noticed in this game, I had a knight on a3 that was completely out of play. And this is normal for this opening, but note to recycle that piece. What does recycling mean? Just like in real life, you bring the piece that's, garbage, and you recycle it, you bring it to a better environment, and as you saw in this game, I hopped it up 3 times to get it to a better square d5, and finally at d5, this knight was a beautiful outpost knight that was very, very nice, and impeding on the opponent's pawn structure. Another thing I did really well in this game was create weaknesses in my opponent's pawn structure. By playing knight c4 while recycling my knight, I actually took on f6 with my bishop, forcing g takes. If the bishop took, I would win a pawn and uncastle the opponent with knight takes d6 check. So I'm forcing this doubling of backwards pawns on f6 and f7 with already black having a backwards pawn on d6. And here are 2 mistakes that we can both learn from in this game. Don't over-defend something that isn't even attacked yet. In this game, I played rook c1. Not only is it defending a c2 pawn that is not even attacked yet, on a potential plan that I go knight d5, it is a liability and a weakness at the same time, because black's plan here is to play a5, push up the pawn, undouble their pawns, and liberate their dark square bishop, which I missed. This bishop is going to be super valuable in a couple moves, going to g5, attacking my rook, defending that c1 square, and preventing me from anything close to knight d5 things. More likely pinning my knight on e3, and I really don't want a rook there on c1 just to make that weakness an even bigger weakness for myself. And secondly, look out for checks. Before I took back that bishop, I actually had an opportunity to be winning in this position, just taking that knight with my rook. Instead, queen takes d5 is a mistake to the check, queen b6 check. And after queen b6 check, defending their b7 pawn, which I was threatening with my queen with check, I have to move my rook to f2 to prevent the fork on e3 with that knight. And then rook takes h5 themselves, defending that knight on f5. On tempo, super clutch move, and here I'm down in position. e3, e5. A lot of b3s I'm seeing. Okay, bishop d6. This is most probably theory that I've yet to learn. But I'm that type of guy, am I? I would do this. So you go this. No, this looks... I'm a fool. Let's do it. I don't know theory. They do. But this looks nice. Yeah, they're playing too fast. They for sure know this. This is theory. Or it's a trap, which is worse somehow. But this is with check. This looks very good. It's kind of like 2 pawns and a knight for a rook. I'm thinking this. Like we have 2 moves. Let's make the most of it. Knight here. Okay, let's take. Okay, we can go here. I kind of like this. Despite being down material, I feel like we have some compensation. Rook takes here. Looking at threats. Alright. It's not life-changing. Rook takes, threatening this is kind of not great, but we're gonna castle on time. Unlike them. Right, so they have a king in the center. That's part of the compensation that I'll get for being down the exchange. Gets a couple pawns. Actually, it's just 1 pawn. If they take on h7, can we go f6? Trapping this bishop, sorta, and not really this threat. because of d4. Okay, they're developing. Okay, c6, keeping that solid. I want to go castles now. I feel like this bishop is a fumble. Rook takes f6. This bishop will be a liability. The game can turn around if the bishop stays trapped on h8. I'm looking at all the feel-good moves for white, like trying to trade off things. But queen here doesn't work. Things like this. That's a nice move to do this. Already sending a message here. I want to go castles in 97. On rook takes, am I worried about this? I think, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Rook here is being threatened also. If I castle, I defend the knight. This. And then there's a kind of fork here. Very interesting line. Castles, rook g7, queen h5. Yeah. The knight can't go to really good squares here, where it attacks my queen like that, because I can take. And now I like this. I like this a lot. Putting pressure on this piece, and threatening this. And I like just the knight on f5 in general. Rook g7, keep calculating this threat. How's your day been, Zach? Great. I had a stats quiz that went okay. I had some good mac and cheese. And then I streamed. That's been my day so far. Hopefully I can get some good value out for you guys here. Then you can justify for yourself. Good game. Oh, I see this. I'm doing some good work would run into this because this bishop is not taking up the square anymore. Or this looks nice. Oh, rook h5. Rook h5. Rook h5. What's up, Alpine chess boy? Okay, let's just move our pieces towards the king, towards the bishop. I want to do this. Knight takes, queen takes, attacking this rook. Rook goes back, queen e8. Somehow this bishop looks trapped. Do we have some nice things with this? Might be dreaming here. Might be completely delusioned. But this looks nice, right? If bishop takes, we unveil with check. It's a very complicated position. We also might be threatening this. We also might be threatening this. Knight takes, and now this bishop is trapped. There's some queen takes f6 things though. Knight f5 can target this g3 square. Let's say by... Where would we clear the bishop? So much for clearance tactic. I don't think we don't have one here. Maybe this? And then we would have check. Whoa. Whoa. Oh, there's a knight here. We can also threaten knight h6, which kind of opens up this diagonal. This file, sorry. Yeah, like, whoa. Okay, queen takes. So this is my point. This is exactly my point. We go here. Like opening up, like threatening this knight. If knight h6, knight takes f6. I'm sure I'm tripping, but there's a tactical device here that's quite insane. Quite majestical. In the sorts of knight here, bishop here. No. If bishop there, I don't think that's what I like. And this is very tactical. This is so complicated. Very complicated. The problem is, I don't know what I'm threatening. It's a big problem. I don't know what I'm threatening. Maybe I'm threatening this. It's so minimal compared to, like, they can't take, right? Because I have mate. They can't take because I have mate. So it's a tough time for them. At the same time, I don't have much. I don't know what my threat is. Oh, maybe it's like Queen E4. Whoa. Whoa. Queen E4. If bishop takes, I can take, and they have to take back with the queen. We get this. Queen E4 is a threat. Now, if they do this, and this took me a while to find my actual threat, which is crazy. This would be technically a clearance tactic because I'm clearing the E5 square. I don't think there's discoveries that are appropriate. Oh, okay. Never mind everything I said. Wait, I can just take here. Takes and bishop G2. If takes, knight takes. That wins. Was that too fast? No, it was not. It was not, my friend. There's also a nice little line I want to show you guys, but I think this is the type of position. It's very, very hard to play. We're back up. This is very cool. Black to play and win, you guys. Pause the video to solve, but it's bishop G2. Bishop G2, queen here, and we open up this file. This is winning. A big intuitive moment is closing up the file for this rook. During the stream, I actually analyzed this game, so feel free to watch that, and after the analysis, I will give 3 tips. Okay, here we go. What was the game review? Surely not impressive. Yeah, 67%. White missed mate in 5. That's also terrible for them. Okay, this is -2. Intuition is not bad. Not bad. Okay, -2. This is good. Good. F takes this. G takes. Good. It is not to take the knight. Now you know for next time. Another 24-hour stream? No. The fuck? Why do you want another? You just got one. It was fire. It will happen once in a blue moon. Why would you want another? Enjoy what you have. Go back on the VOD. I just posted the VOD for the minutes that you missed. Starting my first chess book. Guys gotta go get on. Let's go. Good luck, TJ. So, King F1. Best is bishop G4. Knight F3. Queen H5. Just keeping the tension. You ate a rotten banana? What do you mean? You use touchpad or mouse? No, I use mouse. This is my mouse. Queen H5. Okay, so good to know. It's just bishop G4 or even knight H6. Knight E7. Let's understand why. Knight F3. Queen H5. Bishop takes. Knight E7. What? Oh. Bishop G4. Just keeping the tension. Eventually winning for black. Interesting. Okay. And so this is equal. Okay, so my bet paid off here. Knight d7, best. Knight e7 is best. I played c6. Bethany Ethans, thanks for the follow. Knight e2. Triple castles would have been best. Rook takes here. This is -2. Castles. Knight f4. Knight e7. Okay, still hanging in there. Knight f5 was best. Knight e5 is a big mistake. It allows a queen trade with queen h4. Thankfully, I found knight f5 the next move to take up h4. Knight here. Queen g6. Queen g6. Oh my god. The knight moving gives the g6 square. These are one move opportunities. You gotta find it, you know? Knight takes here. You have knight d7. What? What? Knight takes is like a superhero move. Knight d7. Brilliant move. Insane. You put pressure on this that defends this. If takes, you take here. And this would be mate of course. Wow. Knight h6. Knight takes f6. Knight f3 is winning for white. Bishop g7. Insanely hard to find. And now they do this. Okay. It says in the analysis they had mate in 5 at one point. In the review. Am I tripping here? No, it's just +3. Okay. Yeah, that's a blunder. It's a blunder because it doesn't really threaten anything. Bishop g7. Don't they have queen here? Rook takes h6. Oh, that's a big problem with this plan then. Yeah, this was never a threat. Okay. Got away with that one. On a minor... This was one of the most complex games of these 19 games overall. So here are my 3 tips in this very complex game. Number 1 tip. In complex positions and complex games overall, calculate every single line and every single possibility. At each move here, there was an opportunity that I didn't see and that I was looking too focused on one route. So don't get that tunnel vision and look at every single move for an opportunity, a reoccurring tactic. Just an example here, when my opponent played knight h5, if I could keep on looking at queen g6 for the entire game after every single move, even if it was just taking 2 seconds, I would have found it there and then, trapping the rook, keeping that idea of that trapped rook in my mind throughout the game would have paid off big time in this position. Tip number 2, know to calculate your opponent's bluff. This happened twice in this game. At the very beginning, my opponent played a dubious opening with f4, right? And I went into it knowing that it might be wrong and I might be out of my theory prep. And my opponent played quick enough to literally tell me that I was out of my prep, though this was actually a good way to play. I played this because of calculation, because I knew I would uncastle a king, I knew I would have compensation for 2 pawns and a knight against that rook, and it paid off. The second time this happened, and I called their bluff, was at the very end after bishop h3. I calculated once and twice 2 different variations, the bishop takes, queen takes f3 variation, and the bishop takes, knight takes g8 variation, and both checked out, which made me able to call my opponent's bluff. Tip number 3, even though you have a really nice looking move with a very nice looking threat at the end of it, or a very nice move that is a threat, look for your opponent's best defense. At the very end there, after knight f3, you know I was saying I'm not really threatening anything until I found that queen e4 was threatening mate? Well, white had bishop g7, and somehow this is not the only move that doesn't lose. This actually wins for white. Bishop g7, and after queen e5 by me, threatening mate on h2, this lets rook takes h6. And now this is a defended threat on h2, and this is only because of this bishop on g7. Quite impressive. That variation actually led me to losing a piece, which would have been good to know before playing knight f3, a losing move. A little bonus tip is sometimes in complex positions, if it's not really your style, if it is your style, go into it. But if it's not your style, try to liquidate, try to simplify the position by exchanging pieces, trading pieces off. It will help with it being less complicated. I know I had some trouble here because just every piece was everywhere and it didn't feel like a chess game at times because it was so cacophonic. Currents for sure. Game number 10 maybe? Maybe number 7. Shalom. e4, knight c5, knight f3. A lot of Sicilians in rapid. It's way less Sicilians in blitz, for me personally, that I see. Let's do f3. Since bishop e3, there's knight g4. Trading off the bishop pair, you really don't want that. So we do f3 first. This is going to be an opposite castling Sicilian, most likely. So I'm going to opposite castle right now. Playing against the Scheveningen. Scheveningen is a city in the Netherlands. This opening was first played in like 1920 in the Netherlands in like a Dutch cafe. Fun facts with Zach. That's why I'm the chess nerd. Okay, we're gonna just do a pawn storm. h5 first, then g5. You don't want to go g5 first because of g6, I believe. So h5, g5, and then g6. You want to explode these pawns and sacrifice a pawn to open lanes on the king. Okay, this is kind of a little how to attack. So g5 here, preparing g6. If this bishop gets annoying, we can also trade it off with our good bishop. Okay, f5. So they want this to be the case. I could do en passant. Am I, though? Am I? I feel like f5 is a big mistake here. It's giving me the d5 square. Not that I would play it after this because of c2 hanging, but I kind of like this. I would trade off the bishops first and get my rook to defend f3 from this rook, and then I would go knight d5. What's up, Sam? How are you? The flag behind me is a Juve flag. Yes, sir. What's up, Rob? I'm doing your favorite thing. I'm explaining move by move. Okay, on b5, I think I'll just do this tempo. And, oh, I like check. I like check a lot. We can do check without harm. The order here is very important. g6 here. We want this h6 to be pushed so we can sack here. And this is notably why we play, one of the many reasons we play king b1 first, so that there's no tricks on the back end of taking on h6 and then bishop g5, winning the queen, right, with a little forksies. Okay, this directly, I think, oh, damn. So do I have this first? Yes, I do. We do this. On this, attacking my queen, I have check. Really like this because I win the exchange. And on this, which is kind of a common Sicilian trait, okay, we don't have to deal with it. More next time. Okay, check here, and I think this looks pretty good. h6. Sacking the knight, of course. And I think this is awesome. Awesome possum, as he says in Rick and Morty. Rigor mortis. Rick and Morty. If takes my knight, there's an argument for this being quite checkmatey. I haven't calculated it yet, but intuitively, I think this is quite over. Okay, double check on the king. We get the king at least to f6 here. And that would be mate, exactly. Perfecto. King can't go back because we have discovery checkmates. And then king here. Another beautiful checkmate. This game was perhaps one of my cleanest games of the entire video so far. In this game, I only had one mistake, and I had one brilliant move and a score of 87.8% in game review, which is pretty good. For this quick win, I had an attack, I had a perfect opening, so I'm gonna give you 6 tips on how I did this, and here it goes. Number 1, king safety before attack. When you castle opposite sides, which happens often in the Sicilian, it usually means that you're gonna attack the other side, and the other side is gonna attack your king. It is very important to get your king to safety first, before attacking, so the other side has a harder time attacking and gaining tempo on your king by x-ray or by attack on a weak a2 pawn, which is why I went king b1 before starting any pawn storms. Tip number 2, a great method that I used in this attack, which is very typical for Sicilian attacks, is the use of a pawn storm, which means I am putting my pawns up, throwing my pawns at the opponent. This means could sack a pawn or two, which did happen in the game, to open the lines. I want to open files on the king to get a greater reach to my attack. Tip number 3 is a lesson on my only mistake of the game. It was a purely technical mistake on how to execute the attack, right? I want you to attack how your opponent can't defend, and that's tip number 3. In this position, I played h5, right? Attacking, laying out my pawn storm, but this lets in a very solid move by black that can kind of eclipse my pawn storm, and that is h6. h6 fixes the g5 square, which means that I cannot push as well this pawn storm up the board with g5. What I should have done is g5 first, and that can create an h5 push by any means because black can't really stop this h5. They can play g6 to try to fixate this h5 square. Doesn't matter, I'm still gonna push h5. It's not defended enough by the black pieces. They can push h5 themselves, but I can capture with en passant, and it's very strong, opening up that g file. So the black pieces would have to let in this next h5 move. So do moves that your opponents can't defend against, no matter how you play them. Tip number 4 is watch out for tempo that can be played against your pieces as a method of defense. In this position, I played a move that let bishop takes h3, rook takes, forced move, right? Tempo move, and suddenly the initiative is piling up in black's favor, and they can continue to try to defend this position with queen d7, attacking my rook on h3, and piling up these defensive moves, waking up their pieces, which is exactly what I don't want to do. I want to drive the tempo, and I want to have the initiative on their pieces. So don't let that activity build up in your opponent's position when you're attacking them. Part of this point was already mentioned, but I just want to explain how I executed, just how much I executed open lines when attacking. I literally threw my pawns at the opponent. I played g6, and when I couldn't really rationalize an opening of the g file, I played h6. So when attacking, open lines on your opponent with the trade-off of pawns on the h file and of the g file, and that's exactly what led me to the winning combination of this game, was ignoring my opponent's threat on my knight, which is tip number 5, ignore your opponent's threat when attacking. This is crucial. Your opponent might not be seeing your attack because they're focused on a semi-precious threat on a knight on c3, which happened in this game, which will let you do a move that will advance your attack to new lengths. And that's what the move h6 permitted. A brilliant move in this game. If they take my knight, I take on g7 with check, open up the h file. So yeah, that's where some wild moves come from. It's not actually the sacrifice, the elegant sacrifice of your piece on their king, but really letting them take a piece on the other side of the board for time to develop your attack on your side of the board. And finally, tip number 7 of this game. Yes, I lied. I said there was 6 tips. There's 7. When the king is on the run, which is called a king hunt in chess, look for 2 things. The number of squares you covered as your pieces already, so where the king can escape or can't escape to, and the number of checks you have. And from the number of checks you have, I want you to filter down to the ones that corner the king the most. And from this position with the king on f6, I saw only 1 check, and I saw all squares covered, which was pretty good for me, pretty good for my standards, and I found knight e4 checkmate. Okay. I'm like 90% sure that this is winning. This sacrifice is good. Here this would defend, but then yeah, no, I have checkmate. I have definitely checkmates. Here with mate here on f7. And of course in the YouTube video I'll do a resume of all the games and where I should improve and what I did well for every level. Okay, knight c3, knight c6. We'll go here. This is a Vienna I'm looking into. d6. Okay, a little Vienna. So Vienna gives white an open f file, so for when they castle. But I like this trick. A knight here, knight d4. Okay, now they're threatening this, and this, and this. So we're gonna go h5. On h3, we go back. Okay. Knight takes. I like this. Hitting the bishop a bit. A landing square on h4 for our queen is not terrible. I want to go queen f7 though. Queen e7. Usually not recommended to develop the queen here because the bishop will be trapped inside. But in this case, kind of like it. We're going to go c6. Knight d5 was threatened. Okay, castles. Not really worried about the doubling of my pawns here. Knight g6. I don't believe this was good. What was this? To go 95, e4. I have discoveries though. I have really good discoveries. Maybe not at this turn, the discoveries, because of e takes f6 on tempo. So if I took, they take, which is exhausting. But here, you know, I very much like this. Kupetse with that. Also nice. I kind of like this. Personal favorite. Okay, and here we would trade queens. Since we're up material, we're always looking to trade queens here. There might be some mating nets here, like check king here. Get creative with it, might. We'll just. Oh, how about we go back here? That's a deal. I was thinking so long for, and then this loses. Thank you very much. Right, I was thinking so long for the retreat back to g4, which would have blocked this knight move. And now we're at 21-64. This game completed my 4-game win streak from 21-26 to 21-64, with an average of less than 26 moves in those 4 games. For this 20-move game, I have 3 tips for you. So number 1, in the words of the great second world chess champion, Emanuel Lasker from Germany, when you see a good move, look for a better one. In this position, I saw a good move. Knight takes e5, gaining a pawn, right? We're a pawn up material, winning a center pawn. I had a better move. In a position where it looks like obvious that I have just one move, queen takes e5 wins the equivalent of a piece up. And here, the bishop is suddenly weirded out. My bishop is threatening discoveries on h3. And so queen c1 is the only move forced to get the queen out of that x-ray and to defend the bishop. And now I have some serious threats, and these are the moves that Stockfish recommends. Bishop d6 threatening queen h2 check, queen f4 to defend, queen c5 check, discovery on the queen, queen must defend with queen f2 or queen d4, let's say queen d4, and here in this position, bishop takes h3 somehow works, and there's like a layer of discoveries, and black here wins a pawn, and much more than that, the position is completely winning. Tip number 2, which I did really good in this game, is calculate through your opponent's dangerous move in a line. Many oftentimes we calculate, 1 or 2 moves in a variation, and the opponent has like a dangerous seeming move and we're gone. But upon analyzing the further complexity of that move, queen takes a7 on the bishop takes h3, we can see that I get out of it with a little swindle, queen c5, trading off queens, and the bishop takes back on c5 with check, delivering my bishop from h3 on prise, and we would go back to d7, and we're safe. And the final tip is the more options you calculate, the better. In this position, when my bishop was attacked, and I was wagering where to go back with the bishop, I calculated bishop to g4 and bishop to d7 by looking at my opponent's threat of bishop takes f6 and then rook takes f6. I could deduce that bishop d7 is better vacating that g4 square and preventing them from taking back on f6 a second time. Unfortunately, this happened for my opponent in the game. They took on f6 a second time, and I punished them with a win. In this next game, I lost, but my opponent 2 weeks later ended up getting banned. So it's an interesting game, let's say the least. I wonder why a guy plays rapid and loses in 20 odd moves. Sometimes you want a quick fix to your rating. Speaking out of experience, for my part. Okay, d4. I like d5. Let's try the Nimzo. I haven't tried it ever, especially on stream. I've never tried it. 2 of my students have taken it up. This is an odd move. Trompowski. Trompowski, right. Okay, let's go here. c5. I was gonna go Nimzo, but this trumps everything, if you get the bad pun. Kind of like this. Queen b6. Kind of just fiddling with their weaknesses. On b3, do I have like knight d5? Would be interesting to look at. Just attack this pawn. I do think that white might have some goodies here, actually. Okay, check here. Well done by my opponent. Did not see knight c4. Very good. Okay, I'll do this. Taking up the f4 square so there's no, reinforcements would kill me here. And takes. Okay, this is the signature of the Trompowski. Bishop takes on f6, doubling my pawns. It's like the whole idea of it. I really like this. We're going to go d5 as well. Create space for this bishop to develop, potentially. f5 with f4. Interesting ideas. Just go here. I like the castles quicks idea. Castles quicks. The sooner you can get your king to safety, the sooner you can do some risky stuff. Okay, c4 is being threatened here. It's kind of hard to stop it. We're going to put our king on this open file by X-ray, which I don't usually recommend. Chess theory says that in theory you shouldn't do this, right? And this is really good for white. We're going to be playing with fire here. Since they don't have their dark squared bishop, this diagonal is mine, which is really good. Oof. d5 can be very fuego for them. Very good. So I need to attack or stop that. With bishop e8, it's a bit weak looking. Bishop e8, b4, this will continue, right? a6, a4. Then we probably take. Okay, let's do it. Go back one step to potentially go forward 3 more is what I have in mind here. Well, a little sip of water. I like this. I like this a lot. Opening up a file for me. Very helpful in attacking situations. And you see now this is called tempo. We're gaining a tempo. We're developing a piece while attacking a square. On h3. Or this. No, this would be losing exactly. Okay, good. Good, good, good. Now I am letting this in. I'll be playing like queen c8, attacking this, and hopefully my bishop will flourish from this. Queen b8 is a suggestion once the move is done, which is okay by chess.com TOS. Queen b8, not good. Not good. It just opens this file further on my king. This knight is just further pinned, and b4 comes with a lot of strength, a lot of threats here. So rather put the king outside. b4 now is better. Right. Thanks for the follow, Zender. a3. This is kind of a nonsense move. I believe this is just quicker for them. But I'll take it. Okay. And now on d5, since it's not threatening my knight that much, I can just move my knight directly. And this pawn will continuously be pinned here. And this threat is just not that good, which means that white have a weak isolated pawn now, which was not the case for the previous moves, since that pawn was actually a big threat to me. But I managed to take out both the weaknesses on the c file, which made this pawn so imposing. And so in this position, my goal will be to attack this pawn with all my force. Notably, maybe just bishop e5 here, since this is a huge pin as well. Do they have d5? Takes, knight takes. I think they do. And this is not a threat anymore. This is now not even a good plan. So queen b6 I'm kind of liking more and more as the time is passing. My attack is kind of dying out over here. Should I do a patient bishop d7? Actually, that's the move. I think this is likely. Kind of threatening e5 here. Though there's this. I want things with kind of, you know, tickling this side of the board. This would greatly help me. I'm curious to see how they'll react to this. Probably a better plan was just to attack this more, but I'm skewing towards this attack on this side here. Currently threatening this minor pawn, but it's not nothing. If I can get a file to open, it would be very valuable. Now, bishop here is a classic, just strategical mistake by white. Trading a great piece for a bad piece and making a piece greater here. Knight here, this is... there is some knight f6 things. Do I do this? And my rook here was used for that type of clearing. Queen d8, threatening this. Final move, final answer. There are some things with this, adding pressure here, probably sacking the exchange. But once this opens up and I get some nice things here, I even have like some clearance things with like rook takes g2 and then queen g8 and things like this, little tactics. Okay, let's do f5. It's a good tempo move here. Hi, buddy. You're not doing more ranking, only less. What does that mean? What do you mean by that? This is my rapid rating. This looks like it's just good. What's up, Super Cali? Explaining every move of a rapid game. I'm trying to calculate this here. Knight back. Is this just a flush pawn? Or would they take back with a pawn here? So knight takes, pawn takes. Which is... this directly. Knight takes. Kind of like this. I've been calculating. We have 1 minute left, so let's make the best out of it. This is not directly a threat, but this is a threat, or this is a threat. White has a lot of options here to takes. I think if they try to do some preferable sacking here, so that when I take back, like the knight takes back here, I think I would just go like, depends what, but let's say here takes, and then this, and then this. Check though. Do I have something like this? Another thing to calculate. Another thing to calculate. Also what I like, takes. If rook takes, I don't have to take now, because that'd be losing. How about rook takes here? And then if you take this, I'll take this. This is up to exchange. So attacking my rook. It's interesting and stressful at the same time, because now on their move, I have to play. I have to play now. How are you after the 24-hour stream? Doing well, recuperated well. Sleeping okay. So yeah, surprisingly healthy. Good to hear. I'm glad. Cheers, my guy. They're also taking a long term because it's a critical moment of the game. Rook takes. Big exclamations here. Oh, I have 38 seconds. What am I doing? It's not looking good, Brev, time-wise. Damn! Although this game ended in a total dumpster fire, I actually played quite decent. I ended with an 80+ game review, and frankly, I played better than I thought I had, which is what counts here. Excluding the multiple mistakes I made in this game that were just beyond me. So number one is try new openings. As you saw, I played the Nimzo-Indian, something that I almost never have played, and on bishop g5, you know what, I was clueless. But you learn from this, right? You see different plans, you experiment different pawn structures, and it can only do good in your learning long term. This is a tip that I've taken from before in the video, but it's really, really, really good. It's destroy your smokescreen, right? We're oftentimes very scared of a move that the opponent has, right? In this game, I was really scared of d5, and I worsened my position tenfold to avoid anything like this move, when in reality, it didn't do much. If I kept my bishop on d7, the d5 pawn would have come up, and I traded down, I play queen d6, and my position looks pretty good after a couple moves. After that bishop is out and about, and my queen and my rook develop a battery on the d file, I was way too scared about a minimalistic idea when I should have kept my bishop on d7, my rook's coordinated, so that my rook just flies to g8, and my two rooks are on those open files. That delayed the game a lot, because that move put my position in tip number 3, a clutter. Do not put your position into clutter. You guys, fluidity in a position is so key and will get you so many wins, because your pieces can work together and can pass each other for the right wings. And by putting my bishop on the 8th rank of the board, I prevent my rook from going to g8, and later in the game I have to move my bishop to d7 just so that my rook has to pass by, and that loses a lot of time and a lot of tempo, and in that time my opponent can ramp up moves and accelerate their attack against me, and ultimately have a competitive edge on my king side. And finally is a tactic that I missed, is routinely calculate outrageous sacrifices during the game, just for fun. You don't have to play it if you calculate it, right? And that's the key of it. When you have fun with it, you keep it fresh. Sometimes, you know what? A sacrifice on g2 once worked in this game, and if I had calculated it throughout, I would have maybe identified that it was giving me some play, and this was the line. It was very interesting. Rook takes g2, king takes, and queen g8, and then we bring the queen up, and just by making the king weak, we get our pieces active, and pieces active around a weak king create some good things. And lastly, we've talked about time management, and it's something that I'm seeing in my games that I need to work on. Look at your time constantly throughout the game, which I should have done, and identify which moves you're taking too long on, and play quicker if you've taken longer turns. This is something I struggled with during the game, and it really, really penalized me in the ending stages of that game when I brought my king into the center when it was not necessary. You know, the game was quite equal, actually, plus 0.35, if I just kept my king to the side after knight c6 check. So this is something I struggled with. And as well, the sacrifice on c6 was a mistake. And if I had time to calculate that, which I didn't, I used it all in 2 or 3 moves prior, I would have found a solution to countering that sacrifice on c6. Bishop takes c6 was actually winning or advantageous for the black pieces. I was better in that position, and I was better in this game at many moments. So lesson learned, and we move on. Don't know what happened there. I thought I had the advantage. I have a beautiful command for that. Thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate it, Ali. Okay, again a Sicilian, really good. Just warming us up for the real challenges. I think here there's knight g4, so we're gonna go f3 once again. Since this looks like a dragon. Oh, I forgot to do bishop c4. Wow. That's a miss. You have to do bishop c4 first to prevent d5. Got too excited. Jackpot Josie, what's goody? You look rested. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, let's do this. I don't want to get into this. It's kind of rough. It's interesting, but for the white pieces, it's kind of not it. I love to do the Sicilian because I love to attack. So always do what you love. Okay, bishop b7. Some c. I'm calculating this. Okay, so on e5 here, f4, there's c5 things. Threatening d4, forking my pieces. So either I probably won't go through with that then. Even though this queen here, and now this is a threat, so kind of want to do this now. This is better for black. This and then c5, threatening d4, winning a2. Not much I can do here. Unless I use this for tempo. Knight here. F4. C5. Don't I take? Queen takes. Take with check. King here. And this can be very adventurous. In a good way. Queen C3. Yeah, let's do it. Good line. And if not C5 right now, and if like rook B8, it's a lot of calculation. Lots of calculation. If rook B8, I'm looking at F5, automatically opening up the G file. What's up, Jelle? Des Wart. What's goody? Thanks for the follow. Takes, bishop takes, rook G1, king out. This is beneficial to us in any way, shape, or form. Okay, bishop takes there. I believe I like this as a player of the white pieces. And here you can't stop both of my advances. This is the best one to stop, because on here you would give this. This rook move does nothing, so we're just going to use this time to play h5. I mean, you wouldn't think it, but these are pretty solid. Unless, no, c5 I can take here. And this is the real champion in terms of defense. These are breaking this bishop being here. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. So the winter is coming, essentially. I can't do b3, they take. Can't do knight here, they take. There's no way to defend this. So I'll just continue attacking with my ting. On takes, king d2. Do they have some pieces that can create a follow-up? It's not looking like it. On h takes, I go queen h2, directly zapping for h7. On f takes, I go queen h2, directly zapping for h7. And I think they'll go h5 on that line, though. On h5, queen h3. Threatening queen e6. Do not know too much about this. King h7, rook g1, knight f8 then. Queen takes c7, rook here. It's far from here. Imagine this exact line gets played, that'd be crazy. And along the way, anytime this happens. So I'm kind of having the upper hand with them always having this. I mean, they're playing it right now, probably. Who knows? They can play it anytime, I believe. Unless I have a rook off, and then I can play knight d1, which they have to be careful for. So this is weak, and this is weak. This is also weak as a square. These are all the things we're targeting. Also, rook g1 is kind of nice. Not gonna lie. Actually, I should have played rook g1 here. Because now I'm giving them time to defend. You're defending your knight, and after rook g1, you can have knight f8. If I'm doing this here, when the queen's still back on h2, discombobulation already. This is a really good way to defend for black. I missed this, obviously. We're going to be doing this. No. On this. Oh, wait. There's a little tactic. There's a little tactic here. Right? On knight takes, I have queen takes here. Winning a pawn. Whoopsies. That is a miss. Though, takes. And this should be still good for white. Or not. This is very dangerous now. Queen takes. Check. This. Bishop c1. Okay, wasting no time. We calculated that already. That's why we do calculation. Rook takes here. I think I would just take here and do good stuff. Like rook takes g7, king takes. Oh no, this is rook g4. Good. And so rook takes. Oh, they go back. They go back. They were intimidated by what they saw. Queen here. If knight takes, queen checking here. Rook check. No. This. Knight here. Takes. King takes. Check. And bishop f6. I can do this. Not exceptional. f5 would be exceptional. Takes, takes. Rook has to move. Rook f8, let's say. This would be completely winning. f5 is insane. Insane thought. f5 is... Ooh. Takes, takes. Bishop takes here for compensation. Takes, takes. Check. Bishop back. Bishop g5. This is insanely complicated. Also, d4 is being threatened. Side note. d4 is being threatened. Knight d1, defending b4. And against d4. Knight d1, knight takes f6. Thanks for the follow. Appreciate it, Gab. Hi, do you play viewers? Yes, sir, Asaf. I play viewers on Sunday. I have some really good ideas with just retreat. I think it's just been retreat the entire time. When you retreat and like something like d4 queen takes, d4, I think I can just do this threatening mate. So this, check this. There you go. Wow. Wow. Oh. If you do a game review on this game, you'll find that I played absolutely garbage. At the beginning, I missed a line of a variation that I know, which put me into a box. I didn't know what to do, and coupled with this is not knowing the opening, I lost a pawn on g4, and from here was a very rocky road. But using these 3 tips, I managed to not only survive this game, but to thrive in an attacking motif. Tip number 1 for this game, when attacking, always be threatening, ABT, or as I like to say, threat, threat, hook. So you're threatening, you keep on threatening, and this gain of initiative, this gain of tempo moves will put you in the driver's seat in the attacking sphere. Yeah, in this game I must have had 5 or 6 moves that back to back to back threatened something on the black pieces and they had to respond, whilst their attack was already flourishing and already around my king, like queen takes b2 was threatened for so many moves. I had h takes g6, which by the way, side note, always open a file when you're attacking. Queen h2 threatening the h7 pawn. Rook g1 threatening the g6 pawn. Queen h3 threatening the knight on d7, right? I had all these moves that continuously led to the hook. Rook takes g6. And from there on, I gained my material back up on a pawn, and we found our mating motif, which is tip number 3. Look for the mating motif you're gonna get your opponent with. And in this game, I found not only a battery on the file, but a pin on that bishop on g7, which led to a mate on h8. Tip number 2 is keep on checking your opponent's line. In this game, queen takes b2 check was threatened about 4 times. It worked about 4 times, but I kept checking the obvious of that line. I should have checked the non-obvious too, to be fair, but the non-obvious was really crazy. Queen takes b2 worked, king d2 and then d4 just for tempo add. And after bishop takes, opening up the d file, queen b4 and a lot of tempo on my pieces. And it goes back to my tip number 1, tempo. They should have used the tempo for them, but they didn't. And empathy is key. Always be empathetic to your opponent's threats on you and look at how you can either counteract them or you can esquive them. I'm gonna need a little minute break here. Did I tell you the story of what I did the other day? I was out of pot noodles, or I call them instant ramen, or ramen. I just call them ramen because, anyways. So I was out of ramen, and it's literally the only thing I was out of. Oh, this time I'm getting peanut butter and juice and things like this. Like some items that you don't often refurbish. Like I need peanut butter. Peanut butter is like an important purchase. If you forget peanut butter and you're an avid consumer of peanut butter, you're going to have to go back to the store because you need it every day. This color though. Okay. We're playing a 2300. Very nice. Let's try for a Nimzo again. As I said previously, my students play this. And so I've taught them this without even playing it. So let's try the Nimzo. I've seen also a lot of Nimzo games in my past from analyzing the book, The Zurich International Chess Tournament, in which the Nimzo became pretty much main play, main opening. It was probably the biggest opening of the tournament, I would say. Do I do check? I don't know theory here after g3. So we're kind of winging it. Let's do a5. My students, yeah, I have students that I teach online. It's crazy, like, it's for this particular opening that I've taught them both in the past, I would say 3-week interval, and they love it. They're having good results with it too. So yeah, so if you really loved Morphy, you're not gonna love Karpov, chances are, unless you like the positional play, because Karpov was very, very positional. Okay, c5 here would be interesting. And so on bishop here I would take, and this c5 was popularized in Zurich, I want to say, and not pushing d5, actually waiting to push d6. c5 first, and bishop e7. Oh, on the g3, bishop g2 line. That's very possible. Yeah. Wendell Fracht, thank you so much for the follow. Fracht, that's a nice ending to the username. Fracht. I would guess you're from Germany, but that's. I'll take my chances. I'll take my chances that you're from Germany. Okay, we have d5. This is looking kind of Benoni-esque. If takes, and then d6 is very Benoni. Which is gonna... I think this is gonna happen. I have a super nice pawn majority for the endgame. 3-on-2. Like, if everything were to be traded off right now, this would be quite good. Okay, obviously, I can castle any time, but they're not close to castling, so I won't rush my things anyway. My bishop, though, unlike Benoni's usually, will have a great diagonal, I suppose. If they take some time to play e4, I think I'll just punish this behavior with bishop a6, right? And so on that... Ooh, okay, interesting. Here on e4, do I have time to take? Takes. Check, queen takes. I think I can do this now. On e4, I also have like queen e7. How are you developing this? Ooh, forcing my bishop to take. This is all forced. I like this idea. This is my type of things. I love this. Taking the bishop off this really good diagonal. But first things first, I think we need to castle. I don't think they're going to go for a long castles here. This is why I'm castling first. I don't think they're going to go for a long castles here because I would just have b5, b4, and automatically my attack is launched. So most likely they're just going to fall behind and do this, which is going to give me some time to do knight d7, b5, and b4, take the bishop off this diagonal. Well, always looking at their threats, of course. e5, e4 is coming up. I mean, there's nothing I can do to stop e4. e4. Yeah, just b4. b5 here. I'm surprised they haven't played a4 or anything like this. I'll jump at the opportunity to play this, knight d7, and this in order. Don't want to play this first because of a takes. I cannot take with the a pawn. taking with the c pawn is weird because it just lets in this beautiful square for this bishop, and this bishop is much better than on c3. So you really want to play b4 and keep on taking up this d4 square. So the bishop goes back or trades. So now I'm going to go bishop g6. My bishop is looking rotten right now, but we have some faith, i.e. this is great. Looking forward. I'm very excited, as you can tell, very excited, because I don't play this opening often at all. Maybe this is my first time on stream to play it. And look, I have some plans in an opening I don't know, right? And also we recognize a super nice pattern from Benoni. Okay, knight d7. Thank you so much for the follow, JFlow. Appreciate it. Now we're prepared. Now we're threatening b4. It's coming. Now, I've never been taught to learn to play like this, because I've been taught to play like I am, which is attacking, and this is way less attacking than you would usually see from another one of my openings, right? It's aggressive, but in the context of a strategical game, in which pawn structure is everything, and imbalances in terms of pawns on wings, on different wings, it means a lot. I really like b4. We're going b4. Over and out. Okay, so the bishop goes back. Great. Now we win the square, right? So the bishop can't take. So I like this. If takes, do I have this intermediate move? Check. Zwischenzug. King e2. Takes. No. Plan falls short. Okay, rook e8. Just x-raying this queen and king. Good options overall. I kind of am flirting with this idea too. It would kind of be a liability of a pawn here. Always to keep in mind. Okay, h5 is being threatened, trapping my bishop. I could go here. Gives me an ugly pawn structure. That's fine. h6 is maybe a bit better. h5, the reason I don't like this as much is that the bishop comes here actually. So as I'm threatening this, the bishop comes here to g5, and it's mediums. Atri, thank you so much for the follow. Oh, I kind of like this two-step plan here. We can also decide if we want to open up the file. But this is good. Massively good, coming in like this. And also like little jabs and little threats. But I'm looking at infiltrating this way with taking on a3 and queen e5, maybe d4, and maybe defending b2. So that the rook can infiltrate as well. This bishop is strong. This one is not. They have the bishop pair, but I don't even believe this bishop on this diagonal is that effective. We shall see. Pawn here. Okay. It's potentially weakening this e4 pawn, I think, for white. But some threats open up for them that are kind of juicy. Rook b8. Not contesting the file anymore. And if they take, I will give this pawn for queen b7, which is very strong. Rook has to go back to a2. We'd gain a lot of presence there. This is why h6 was better. h5 was a mistake I'm paying for now. I'm thinking this, like we tease this, and if they go a4, then we bet on c4 here. Or we go b3. Oh, is there this? Oh, am I missing some things? No. This might hurt. E5 looks good. Let's open this up. E5 no time, I can take. They wouldn't give this bishop. Too strong. They can take. Takes too much time here. I don't know how I'm getting out of this spin anytime soon. Very annoying part of my position, right? I have 35 seconds on my opponent. Whoa. Played now, eh? I think I have this on tempo. On the queen. Now I can take. And take here. And there's no d6, right? We remember why they did this. We understand our opponent's plans here. Is there a two-move tactic? Which would be winning. And even on takes, I believe this is winning. Unless they can block it well. It's a good chance it's winning. Do we have this? No, just bishop takes. Okay, just queen d7. Queen d7 looks like a very optimistic move. Queen h3. Threatening check. Threatening check. Oh, this is not mate. Oopsies. Okay, let's say you save yourself. They don't. Okay, minimum this. Oh no, this is defended. Okay, wait. So this, and this queen is defended. Simply takes the bishop. Don't think I have anything winning here. On the spot, at least. This queen is a great presence. Really cannot be taken out of h3 easily. Meanwhile, this is a threat of winning a pawn and just liquidating to an endgame. The bishop also doesn't have threats on h5 anymore because we have mate. That is perhaps a mistake because it lets me get my knight in. Takes. Queen h6. Queen h6? Can they play it? No. Queen h6 I have takes. At least. I'm threatening knight g4, you guys. On bishop takes, it's mate. Knight g4 threatening mate here. With check here. And mate. No. Interesting. Check here. And then mate. Wow. Super deep. Whoa, resource. And if I take, they take. Insane. Crazy resource. So I would just attack the weakness once more. How can you really defend g3 here? This is crushing. I know there's a threat here, but it doesn't do much. This is just really strong. It's very simple. I'm just threatening g3. There's really no other threat I'm looking at. This is not that much a threat because this, you know, threatens perpetuals. It's really just this move. And check this. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Calculate before you move. We win at least. No, it's not a queen because we lose here. Okay, so check this. And like knight d3. Very simple. Very simple way to end that. Oof, I'm not sure. Bishop here, knight d3. Is there check to get out of it? Okay. 19 seconds. No, d7. Oh my god, they missed. Oh, they completely missed. They were completely winning. Oh my god. Oh my god, you guys. They completely missed. Tip number 1 for this game is taking space makes your opponent's pieces weaker. In this game, I pushed my pawns up all the way up the board, didn't overextend, my pawn structure was still clean, made my opponent's pieces weaker with that bishop going back, and I could later bring up an attack from that front. So I think that was a very successful event in that game. Tip number 2 for this one is going to be open files you already control before opening. In this game, the B file was already mine. I had doubled rooks on it before I even opened it, and this was the hack of this position. Once I opened it, it was mine, and my rooks infiltrated first come, first serve, and that's how my rooks were so destructive on the second and third ranks upon their arrival. Number 3 is a very key attacking tip, is attack on 2 fronts if you can. So in this game, I attacked on 2 wings, possibly. I would say the center, or even when my queen came to h3, that was kind of the left field, and on the right field, the right side of the board, aka the queen side. Attack on both fronts is when your opponent is taken off guard and its pieces are dismantled and uncoordinated. That's one of the best ways to attack in chess, and that's what I did here. Little tip, always take the second rank when you're attacking. It's the most preferable rank, it's the most common rank. When you take the second rank with your rook, it's really like a razor sharp blade that goes through their position. I highly recommend it. And the final tip of this game is be clinical in your finishing. You saw there I had a really good position for many moves, but I couldn't find the technical win. There's like 4 wins that I missed. I'm gonna put them on screen, but at 4 different moments in the game, I had assured wins that I just couldn't find, mainly because of time pressure, or I couldn't find it on the board. Be clinical. Do not give your opponent a second chance at life from a winning position in a game. Okay, playing against somebody from Georgia. d4, d5, e6. This is my birth opening. Hume Dome, thank you so much. Hume Doom, thank you so much for the follow. This is my childhood opening, also called the Slav defense. Semi-Slav. Okay, and this is the Catalan variation that they're gonna do. They're gonna play something like this along these lines and to push e4. Luckily, I have studied this because it's a line that I've seen more and more in my career these days, more recently. So we have the tools to fight. Okay, they're doing a b3 variant, but most likely they're developing the bishop here. If not, if it's like this, it's interesting. Okay, and what if I castle and they castle long? I'd be okay attacking this. So you want to take with the bishop, with the knight, not with the pawn, because that allows knight g5. And so by doing this, queen takes. And now I usually like this, but they've clearly done some work to oppress. White have to be careful here. I don't think you can play anything just about because some rookie E8 things come on. You can play that. I think I have this on tempo, defending mate, attacking the queen, and we'll take this pawn, a center pawn. Whoa, actually no. Because this would attack this. Unless I do some nice things. Let's do this. Bishop takes, I'll go h6, defending against this mating threat. And I eventually also want to go e5. Should I have done e5 though? Oh, e5 is great. Queen a5. Amazing, amazing. Queen a5 now would have been amazing. Played too quick. Guess it happens. Okay, do we still have e5 though? Is it that weak? Aha, they can take back with the knight and defend the bishop. Let's just do this. Rook e8, rook e1, and then b6, bishop b7. Oh. X-raying my queen. La reina. We're going to go this. No. We're going to go here. We have to keep eye on this knight. If we go here, it loses instantly. Most probably this, or just takes on f6. I want to go b6, bishop b7 here. This is where this would get very interesting. Okay, we decide to go to an endgame, do we? Here they can trade bishops. Most likely I don't like that because I have the bishop pair, so they might do it. Razzo, what's goody? You've been doing chess at the park lately. Nice. I'm so glad you're having tons of fun. Okay, bishop e4. Let's go bishop c7. We're going to want to try to knock off this bishop off the diagonal, which they're going to try to prevent while giving themselves a space. And now I'm here first. I'm definitely here first. And I'm going b6, bishop b7. As fast as I can. But this bishop is now on a bad diagonal. And this is a big turning point in this game for me, I believe. Now, there are some quarrels that I have with bishop b7. Notably, rook d7. Kind of attacking both of these. Though rook d7 is not a move right now, so great time to play it. Bishop e5 at the center of the board. Look at this. Okay. I might be in a bit of trouble here. If bishop goes here, then knight c7, bishop b8, knight d6. We might have to say goodbye to our bishop pair. Bishop f3 takes. And do we like our rooks enough to go two pieces against rook? Don't think so. I like my bishop. So what I'll do is I'll temporarily make this bishop weak to go a6. And if knight here, I would trade. And I would trade a pair of rooks as well. Rook here, I'll takes as well here. And then I'll go king here, and I'll just... Ooh! Ooh! Wait a second. This... Okay, so I'm just going to explain everything. If takes, rook takes, I cannot do that, right? Now I'm doing this to kick the knight. If the knight goes here, I can trade off and win a piece. So they can't go here. They would have to back off somewhere here. When that happens, I can coordinate my rooks for the first time in a while. But this is still an advantageous pawn trade because this bishop is now good anew. This pawn on f5 was doing a masterful job. Yeah. So well played by my opponent. And speaking of, Saminko, thank you so much for the follow. Also, when they take and I take, I have double isolated pawns. Not ideal. This bishop, thankfully, is still very good in this endgame. Like, mating net good. It's not bad. Rook on the second. If they take, I think I'll take. If they push, I think I'll go rook b2. Make life tough for him. Also, like, these are not silly plans. This is not a silly plan at all. Or something like a king aggressive on f3. Takes. Looking at what my opponent has. I like bishop f3 things. Okay. Not happening now. Okay. Knight e7 is threatened. We're going to go king g7. Thank you so much for the gifted sub, Saminko. I appreciate it so much. You're not even a sub and you gifted a sub. What an absolute beauty. Thank you so much. What's up, Yoke Noah? Didn't see you there. Hope you're doing well. We are currently playing some rapid games. I'm up 50 points on my original rating of today. So good stuff. Looking to convert the last 25 points to end this beautiful stream with you guys. I'm doing good things, just popping in to watch before I sleep. There you go. Knight e7. It's odd because I really like king f6 on tempo. Knight g8 and I go here. And there's never like some rook yeah, those things, because it's mate. So I'm just going to go here. I just go here. And they've lost. They've given me 2 free moves. I like free moves. I like free stuff. Sue me. Huh? I also like this. 5-7-XDD. Thank you so much for the follow. Love your content. Watch you on TikTok and YouTube and learn so much from you. I'm starting with chess, so it is very useful. Thank you so much. And I'm wishing you sincerely a very, very strong chess journey. Cheers, buddy. Best of skill to you. Can we go rook b2? This is this f3 I don't like. It doesn't do a great job at guarding, I believe. I think I'm just doing this if I want to knock this off. Do I have this immediately, though? That would be kind of big. This, rook here, maybe not. I like better pursuing this plan. We go h4. And now we're discoordinating. Well, maybe I'm talking too fast here. Okay, I'm going to tell you what I'm trying to do, okay? I'm trying to discoordinate the wall that was placed in front of my king with all these pawns taking up here. And now when I can take with my king here, threatening this, I think f4 they're going to play just to cut off my king. Most likely. I want to go this and threaten mate, right? Very aggressive. The king gains a lot of confidence. It's like the kid who never had the courage to ask out a girl at the prom, you know? 20 years later, the once kid is now an adult and finds up the courage to ask a girl out. And this is the story of the king, like the redemption story, you know? Tried to make that interesting with a metaphor. See that? Okay, maybe something like this. White is clearly advantageous here, but this is a very good advantage. What I want to do, oh, I like this a lot, is gluing the knight to this pawn. So gluing the knight here. I'm also threatening to win a pawn, though this pawn would be very good. So I'm not doing that. We ain't doing that right now. also want to freeze this pawn from avalanching down. So by taking up the c5 square, I'm doing this with my rook. Always stop a pawn with a rook from behind. Huge, huge clue and chip. Oh, for completely missed that. No. No. Yeah, this is a draw. It's a draw before the mistake. They, surprisingly, they like this, which I'm not on board with, but okay. Something like this. And the rook comes in time. Rook d4, king f3. We kind of just block this king out. b4, king here, no? 5, we take. This is still a draw. Oh, this is a good shot. It's a good shot of the millions. Rook d6. Tell me how this is still a draw. Oh, they take here. Okay. Here are my 3 tips for this crushing loss. I mean, it was really heartbreaking. This was a draw until move 37, in which I did a complete blunder and lost. Just lost in one move. Chess is really, really harsh like that. Tip number 1 is to play till the very end of the game. You can be down 45 moves into the game, and it's a draw or you're trying to squeeze a win, but if you stop thinking for your opponent for one move, as we saw in my game, you can lose the entire game, all 45 moves scrapped. Tip number 2 is when you play an opponent and you know the opening that you're playing and they play something funky, don't go on the reverse and think, oh my god, what are they doing? I don't know this. Go on the offense. They played weird. I know this line, and they played a secondary move. How can I benefit from this and take advantage of this? And in this game, there was one particular moment where my opponent opened in too quick, and this led in for a big opportunity for me, which I missed, and it was bishop b4. Check on the king, forcing the king to move and not castle for the rest of the game. I missed this after my opponent opened up the center way too early. And finally, when in trouble or when attacked upon, think outside the box. This can save you a multiple of times. In this game, it actually happened. My bishop was attacked, and as you guys saw, my worrying fears were growing and growing because my bishop didn't have really, really good squares. And my bishop was so nice the move before. It's important to think outside the box. The rook was attacking my bishop. I had a6 resource a6 attacking the knight. We call this a desperado in chess. And now if rook takes bishop, I take the knight, and rook takes pawn, and I take the pawn on a2. Instead, I played bishop b8, numbing my bishop, isolating my rook, and my position was terrible from there on. Never settle for passive. Just sometimes it doesn't work out. e4, e5, knight f3. A little Italian. First time I played this today, surprisingly enough. It's been only Sicilians and French defenses. It's refreshing to see players way better than me blunder to knights too. Sucks though. There you go. Relatable. Knight, bishop c4. I see you're a streamer. Good luck. Thanks to my opponent. Okay, now we play this line c3. My course on this is coming out soon. d4 here. Very nice Giuoco piano. This is all theory, so don't mind me if I go quick here. Learn your theory, you guys. We go check. What's up, Saucy Dragon? AKA Gavin. Redeem instant king move, but facts. Yeah, no, yeah. So, queen here. Threatening this and this, and I would have to trade. But still, king g8 is not it. Yeah, okay, queen here. Yeah, this is not good. So, I out-theoried them. Queen b3, which is laying low. Knight c3 plans. I want a castle. Black is supposed to go to e6 here and go rook e8 and eventually artificial castle back to g8. This is not a good move because this rook is boxed in. It's like if black is playing with less resources. and they should or could. Okay, knight c3. If knight takes, I can take and takes and takes, and this is still solid. And if takes here, attacking my knight, I can go queen takes d5, queen takes, and knight takes. And we're still equal, but they have a isolated pawn in the center. Pretty good for me. Even, can I do knight takes? Queen takes. Okay, they go for the line I like more. A bit less tactical. Super sharp in this position when I have a king out is not ideal. So I like this. It's a bit more closed here in these two lines. And I can castle and really bring my advantage forth. c4, it's not that good. It weakens the d5 pawn. And my pawn here, I mean, this is weakened too. But this is a bigger weakness to bear for black. I like this. Threatening this, right? And on bishop here, I can take. Bishop, rook here. I like this regardless. I was going to consider this, or even queen d1 and out. But this is threatening multiple things. Right? I can just take here, right? It's a huge advantage. Okay, this looks so winning. Yes, it is. So always calculate. And this is GG. It's forced. You can't go to G6. Perfect. And we're right back in it. Let's go. Exactly the win we needed. This game was a perfect game. No, like really. It was scored 100% on accuracy. One of my first ever. For me, it's the first one I've ever seen of my games that's scored 100%. Here are some tips that I can recommend so that you get 100% on one of your games one day. Tip number 1 is know your theory in depth. In this game, I knew the first 11 moves of theory until which my opponent didn't know moves of theory anymore, and that's where they started playing weirdly. And as I said in the advice in last game, take advantage of that. Take advantage of that opportunity and see how they go wrong. Try to work your way around it, and that's what I did in this game. There are several avenues for you to learn your theory in chess. It's not a big known secret. Number 1 is YouTube. Searching the specific opening in YouTube really helps to find what you need and to learn. Study what you see on YouTube. Number 2 is either going to be some sort of course. So a Chessable course, chess.com course, working with an engine, right, with a premium membership. And number 3, which is what works for me, is chess books. I love chess books. I pour myself into a chess book on a day off, and you know, you just read the entire thing, you study the lines, you memorize them, and then you play them out in the game if the lines happen. Sometimes they don't, and you just memorize something for nothing for months on end, and then finally you'll have it. Work hard on the resources that you give to yourself. And number 3 is a little tactic tip. Look where your opponent isn't. And most times that I'll find tactics in games, they're less and less obvious because at a higher level, my opponent calculates for me and my plans, and it's the really, you know, side quest moves that I'll find that are kind of harder to spot, and that's when I'll get the edge. And so in this game, it was a tactic, a queen sacrifice that you don't often calculate, that won the game for me. So look where your opponent isn't, because I'm sure that my opponent did not look for queen e8 and then queen takes h8, which is a surprise move. Okay, we're playing against the same player. They're going to play d4. Sounds like a d4 player in my book. Let's see. Oh, no, an e4. Okay. e4, e5. c6. And we're going to go with a Janish Gambit, aka Schliemann's. This is what I play against the Re Lopez. It's my weapon of choice. I'm seeing so much of this. It's like 80% this nowadays. Keep in mind, you guys, there are so many moves that white can play here. But again, most of it is castles. So we're going to go bishop c5. And just d6, right? Because threatened here was like some knight things with takes and check on castles. Which is why I'm going to castle now. And I'm going to bring my bishop to g4. We're going to try this out. It was not a forced mate. I was winning the queen. I should have explained that. I should have really explained that. Yeah, so after the king took, I had a royal fork between king and queen. Yeah, that could have been more hype for you guys, but I failed. Mission failed. We'll get him next time. So we're just pinning this knight. Very nice pin. This is like not insane. Kind of don't like that move against me and for them. Do we? Oh, it's pinned knight. I get it. Yeah, just bishop b6. I can't. It's a tempo move because I can't let this trade happen on this square. It's just gonna destroy my pawn structure, right? And also, this pawn is gonna be so weak. I think white can do something here. At least I keep my pawn structure or this pawn island intact, which is preferable. Bishop c4 can kind of sink into my castling plans. Okay, queen here. This, they want to go check, king h8, and take a pawn. But I think I'm up. I'm up big time. After weakening their king, it's worth much more. And here, this is where we go full plans. Okay, so we're attacking here seriously, meaning that they move, and we go in. Sure. I just want to make this move worse for them once they move the knight, because this needs to move. Otherwise, I double their pawns and open up their king on this file, and this is very good in chess. Like, I'd bring a queen here, knight f4, and it's over. So they have to move their knight, and I'm going to use this move that was kind of an inaccuracy, I believe, to my advantage and take up some tempo. Oh, so they're blocking the square. Interesting. That still means that bishop back in g5. Knight here? No, this can't be good for them. Cannot. Okay, I'm going to go knight f4. I want to go this first. So they go back. So they waste the tempo. Free move. Gotta love the free moves. So this, the bishop will go here and there and back. To the moon and back. To the moon and back indeed. And by the way, all these resources with check and this, I don't really care about them winning that pawn. Here, time is money. Time is advantage when attacking. If white has a resource for a small bit of material, it's the perfect amount to salvage for some time. So bishop here, if they're thinking, they're very scared about something else that's going on. No, this knight is just, I feel like I just want to leave it there. Or vacate this h5 square to bring my queen to. Something like this knight here. Takes. Kind of feeling meh. This also doesn't work. Yeah, we're just going to go knight f4 and trading here, as originally planned. Queen there. In normal times I would do this, but there's a bishop. Okay, here I really like this. On takes, I would be winning. What's up, Zakaria? What's up, Kozak? In business together. In the same name business. Now I'm actually threatening to go like 97 to take cover of these squares. And then threaten g5. Though, can the knight go back here? Takes, queen takes. Queen takes, queen takes. And even this in the endgame would be so strong for black. I'm looking if I'm threatening this. Knight here, knight h3. And now this would be super good. This might be the threat of the hour. Knight f5. And yeah, takes, takes, rook takes. Wins a pawn. So g5 is a big threat. These are other moves that they can do. On f3 or h3. Speaking of which, on h3. Maybe bishop e2. Bishop takes though, takes. Bishop takes, takes, bishop takes, and we take on f2, winning that. Ridiculous. Let's say something like this. We'd be up the exchange. Bishop there, bishop takes, knight takes, up the exchange, right? Pretty good move. Jeez. Crazy desperado. So what I just calculated here is a desperado. It might happen. So bishop takes. We could just take this bishop and be afloat. Obviously, we're trying to do better. And we have a forced line if bishop takes. So bishop takes obviously threatens our bishop. We would take with the pawn, threatening the queen. And so they would take our bishop, threatening our queen. And so we could take their queen and they take ours. And quite on the flip side for us, we take on f2 and fork these two huge pieces. This is a major fork because you win 4 points. You know, you win a full rook. It's really good. So this is the threat of the hour. And I'm threatening this bishop. So white looks out. Takes, takes. Takes, takes. It all acts in my favor. Okay, takes here. Unless they find something like this. But no, I'll just move my queen. Okay, and so this is winning for us, or advantageous at least. Take. Even on the back end, we win this a2 pawn. Absolute beautiful. Fire. This will be easier to convert than I thought. If the bishop was magically here, they would have this resource. On knight here, I believe I have g6, which doesn't win a piece. It forks them, but it doesn't win. So knight e7. Oh! King f8, f7. Again, this just screams money. Ooh. The dark days are gone. So sincere. Sunny, one so blue, I love you. Peak ELO rating reminder. For Rapid, it's probably 2256. Yeah. Hello, what's up, Jinjo? Lol, how is my guy going into this bishop takes f4 line? It's tough to calculate. This is like 5 moves of calculation, that line. It's pristine stuff. And they resign. Here are my 6 tips. Yes, 6 tips for this game. And my favorite one, potentially, of these 82 is in here. And I'm going to say it first, is calculate on your opponent's time. This is my favorite tip because it gets you so much further than 1200 or 1000 or 800 or whatever your level is. Having empathy and calculating for your opponent on your opponent's time is the best way to maximize your operations in your position and thrive in a chess game. So that alone is tip number 1, but I have 3 consequential arguments for why you should calculate on your opponent's time, and they're each gonna be a tip. Number 1, it helps you understand the overall position better. In this game, when I was calculating so much on my opponent's time, I was calculating their plans, their potential next moves, I was understanding what was going to work in my attack and what moves I should avoid by trying out a lot of moves in my position and just playing along with it. The more information you process, the better you can do a move on the next turn, because secondly, it helps you understand your opponent's plans and moves on their next turn, which means that you gather so much information about your opponent, you can not only stop what they're doing, right? Prevent what they're doing on their next turn or their long-term plan, but you know the inside coded information, the exact blueprint of how they're planning to beat you at this game of chess. And that drives in perfectly to my third point. By understanding your opponent's plans, pains, and threats or potential moves, you can do a better move yourself because you can anticipate their moves better, and so you can regurgitate a better move from your own position. Tip number 5 is avoid tunnel vision by calculating wide. So the way I see it in chess, there are 2 types of calculation. Calculation that is far, so calculation that you see far into the position, which I executed to perfection in this game. I calculated very far. I calculated a 5-move variation, and I got to a winning position right through that desperado. That got me advantageous in an endgame ready to convert. There's also the calculation that is wide. So calculating a wide range of moves, just 1 or 2 moves in, right? Calculating knight d7. This is what I was doing on my opponent's turn, right? I was calculating a few moves for me, a few ideas. That's calculating wide. When you're calculating far in one line, from the initial position, it's important to calculate wide too, because this happened in the game. When I played bishop e2, I had a perfect far calculation, but my wide calculation was bad, and this was actually a mistake, bishop e2, because it let in, again, a move that I didn't look at because I only looked at one set of moves for white, and bishop takes c6 in this position manages to trade off my knight and play knight f5, and here this bishop on e2 looks a little bit silly now. And finally, a very light tip is convert winning positions by finding weaknesses. In this endgame, you pour a ton of pieces on the board and you don't know how to react, you don't know how to convert. Look for the tiny weaknesses in the position and try to unlock them and try to put pressure on them. And, you know, this is what I did. I juggled with some moves in this endgame, and then I found a very direct path to 2 weaknesses. One piece that was on the side of the board, the knight, and undefended, and the pawn on e4 that was also undefended and isolated. So I played rook f4, guaranteeing winning a pawn, and my opponent resigned. Let's go. Okay, should we go 3-0 here? So e4, e5. Do we get an Italian again? We do. It's beautiful. I love this line. I'll play it all day, any day. They'll probably take this time. No, they won't. Let's go. I love this line. I would play this as much as I could if I could. Edging ever closer. New all-time high by New Year. Let's go. I really want to hit my all-time high by the New Year in Blitz. 2356. I want to do that on stream with you guys. Because we've come so close. We were like at 2335. 20 points away once. H6, again, the king here is so bad. So we're going to go castles, because this is the resource that they can do to make it not that bad. Here we're going to go knight c3. Again, just take off the knight. Thanks, Rob. I appreciate that. Okay, good. It's a little struggle of opinion here. If I do queen takes, I'm coming into this plan where I have some checks here. If I do b takes, I'm making myself more solid, but my queen is out of place. So I'm going to do queen takes. I also keep myself in semi-open file. Yeah, so check, and this would be the case. We're going to do rook c1 first. This light squared bishop is very good. Very strong bishop, especially going to f5. I need to do everything to not make this bishop go to f5. Let's go f3. Never play f3 except for now. But gotta admit, your knight is probably better. What's up, Ziv? Is probably better than a rook. This knight is fire. It can't be... Okay, so many arguments for why this knight is great. It's an outpost. You can't attack it with a pawn because it's outpost. It's outpost the pawns. That was made up. And there's no dark squared bishop to take out this knight. But this bishop is as good as this knight, I believe. Actually, g4 here, which is my plan. If queen here, so I can't take now, I'll go like king h1. Okay, and now like repurpose this threat, recycle it, reinitiate it. All those words. Oh no, if queen g5, this loses. Yeah, I won't tell you to what unless they play it. But yeah, if bishop here, maybe I would trade and play like queen d3 so the king doesn't go back to its hiding spot. It's very interesting. Black has a lot to weigh in here. Are they going to give up this priceless diagonal? I mean, you can't put a price on this diagonal. It's so strong. Okay, now we're going to go check. Now we win the g6 square. Super big. This is huge. Either we go here or I like this. Attacking the bishop, bishop back. Take. It's not accumulating to something. So we're going to take this open file. Now, all of this is weak. Like, I sacrificed a lot to get my pieces in motion. Luckily, there's no queen h4 for this for the time being because of knight g6. Queen h5. Maybe h4? Would be kind of insane. The queen can't go to f4, can't go to h4. But I think this doesn't work. Dude, the queen takes h4, knight g6, queen check. Okay, queen f6. My king is unsafe. My king is unsafe. Thank you so much, X Cuisine. I really appreciate that feedback. You know, you kind of go out on a limb with these series that you don't know if they work or not. So I appreciate when you tell me it is. Even if it's not, if you tell me that it's not working, I will accept the feedback and try to do better next time, of course. Okay. I'm liking f4, f5. Just something is telling me that this is strong. This is my, you know, it's my kind of majority, my pawn majority here. Is there takes? Gonna be naughty. Threatening f5. I think this just wins the exchange. Bishop back, knight d7. They can even trade. It's fine by me. Oh, okay, bishop here. Okay. Interesting. Now we have this knight g6, which is nice. Knight g6 looks really nice. Forcing rook takes, and if rook f7, this wins on e8. So they would have to go here. And then I really like rook e7, penetrating the position. So this is not like the type of game which is completely winning. It's just small and small advantages, on and on and on. Taking space, taking a file, better knight over bishop, right? Making this bishop worse. Small incremental advantages. Now, if I say all that and this fails, well then, that's joke's on me, but this is part of this. Always taking a risk here. But yeah, if rook takes, you know, you can't really do this. You kind of have to free this rook. So there's an urge to take here, and then free this rook here. I would have the file. Little to no counterplay for this queen. It's looking good for now. Junior Kenny, thank you so much for the follow. And Jinjo as well, thank you so much. My full name is Zachary, yes. Call me Zach, though. The knight on g6 is fire. It's a fire knight. Notably because it controls h8, which is underrated. if my rook ever gets to the 8th rank, it's mate. Simply put. Okay, they're sacking the exchange. Again, by the way. If I take, queen takes, king here. I think I have to take. I think this is just really good. We'll just take here. Again, this is strong piece for weak piece, so it could not have been the best move of the position. But I'm taking this advantage 10 times out of 10. On rook takes, I really like f6. f6 opening up the g file on the king here. I have to attend a meeting. Good luck on your climb, Zach. Thank you so much, Gavin. Have a great meeting. I hope it is beneficial. With running rook g1. And now this is completely winning. Yeah, with rook g1. GG's, right? So small incremental advantages, make the opponent worse, gain space, and you get the win. For this one, I have 3 tips. The first one is take space to make your opponent's pieces weaker. In this game, I played g4, pushing the bishop back, and then I played f4, f5, pushing the bishop back once again, and that bishop was miserable till the rest of the game did not move. Tip number 2 is the candy can sometimes be sour. In this game, before and whilst and during capturing the exchange on f8, so winning the rook for a knight, this was actually not the winning move. In fact, this nulled my advantage and gave it an equal sign, so it was equal from here on out. My opponent could have taken on f5 with the bishop, and that knight would have just perished, and my opponent has some compensation for that rook against knight and pawn. This also happened to me today as well in a rapid game. I took a rook with a bishop, and finally that was not the right move. It was actually winning for the black pieces in that game. I'll show it on the screen. And just make sure before taking the exchange that that piece taking the exchange is not more powerful and cannot stay in that power for much longer. And final tip is make moves that make threats. In the famous words of Magnus Carlsen on Garry Kasparov, if you do 10 threats in a row in a chess game, chances are your opponent will miss one of the 10 threats on the way to the 10 threats or at the 10th threat, and you will win the game. So make threats like f6 in this game, making a move to make a threat, rook g1, to win that g7 pawn, open up the g file, and win. Crazy! GG, thank you, Adam. What's up? Okay, we're doing this again. Schliemann's. I'm taking this person's rating for real, for real. It's love the YouTube shorts. Thank you so much, Rainy Devil. I appreciate it. What's up, John Ludwig Nail? Random adoption match. No, not yet. Not yet anyways. But yeah. 3-0 is good. It's a good feeling. Especially I lost 4-1 to another guy before. Okay, so bishop c5. This is theory after castles. They're probably going to try something new, given the last time was not that good. If they go again for this plan, yeah, they didn't like my bishop here. That's a fact. But bishop here in this line is not that good anyways. There's bishop e2. I don't think they ever thought of it though. So they ever thought to play it? I don't. Okay, I like this. It's kind of a 2-move plan. It's pretty solid. On knight d5, I would take, because obviously I'm letting go of this defense here. Little details like that. Que me llamo Diego. Thank you so much for the follow. Most likely your name is Diego, I would say. Okay, queen g6. I'm in love. No, I'm not in love. There's knight here. Oh, there could be some very fire things. Very fire things, you guys. Rainy Devil, thank you so much for the follow. I'm very appreciative of your supports on YouTube as well. Okay. Let me think here. Let me think here. Queen G6. And on knight H4, there's some goodies, which I will not disclose unless they play it. But here, just as a general threat, we're threatening this. Emil, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate it. I'm glad you're doing well, Adam. Thank you so much for the sub, Nani X Red. I appreciate it. Hope you're having a marvelous day. Nani. Okay, I'm going to guess that you're from Portugal because you like Nani. Okay, some goodies that I was talking about on knight H4. We have Queen G3. This is a common tactical device, actually. So here, this pawn is pinned, right? Bishop and queen inflicting some damage on F2. And it's kind of a fork because we are attacking this knight. So this is looking pretty slicey. Plus, we're threatening this on top of everything. From Turkey, there you go. He played here. Oh, that's right. I want to say Galatasaray. It was not Beşiktaş. It was probably Galatasaray. Was it though? Nani was fire in Portugal. Playing in the Portuguese league, he tore it apart. And this is a win. Yeah. Before the tips, I thought I would explain this combination that led me to the win, as I did not explain it during the stream. So this is basically a fork. Here we are attacking F2 and this knight on H4. This pawn cannot take my queen because it is pinned by my bishop to their king. And so let's say you decide to save your knight. Here with knight F3, we have queen takes F2 check. Better than that though, we even have bishop takes H3, threatening checkmate on G2. And now white can defend, very clutch, bishop F1. And here we have queen takes F2 check, king H1, and now knight G4. And this what basically does, it opens the lane for the rook to sacrifice on this knight and then to lay checkmate here on G1. And if you want to save this G1 square, well, bad news for you, it's checkmate on G2. And the more friendlier of options, if you want to save the pawn, which is not really a pawn, it's more than a pawn, here we would win a full piece in this knight and just continue the game with a full piece of material. At this level, it is very decisive to have a full knight up. In this game, I scored a 99-7. So here are my two short tips, as it was a 12 move, very short game. That went by fast. Okay, so tip number one, this is the best example of a game in which you take up the center, develop your minor pieces, castle quick, and start your plan immediately. And I executed this perfectly in 12 moves, and I won in 12 moves. Do this in game, your games will be so much more organized, and your pieces will be so thankful to you. So just do it. And finally, piece of advice number two is when calculating lines, when calculating on your opponent's time, because you do that now, don't calculate in whens. When they'll do this, when they do this, when they do... Calculate in ifs. If they do this, I do this. In the game, you see me not talk about knight h4, queen g3, even though I had seen it. The reason is I keep my eyes open to the rest of the possibilities of my opponent's moves and don't expect them to do mistakes. If you always expect your opponent to make mistakes, you will make sloppy moves. Play each opponent as if they are the best player out there. Coming into this last game, I have a rating of 2199, almost completing road to 2200, and we're playing a 2500 for this last game. Enjoy. Because 15 plus 10 takes too much time to match. I'm playing a 2500, so this is kind of like the final boss. If I win this, I'm 2200. So I'm going to be calculating everything, you guys, okay? Everything. Final boss. Should I put on the lights? Wait. Is my light disappearing? No, I'm still well lit. Okay. Let's go. So we're going into a Pirk. Pirk says, take up the center and defend your center. So against e5 things, Okay, I have a really good plan against this in my repertoire, so I'm going to go for this. Just trading, and we have very symmetrical pawn structures. I'm going to go for an early castles, you guys. Just because castling long for them is unlikely, so we're most likely going to castle on the same side. And then the Pierz, it's actually pronounced Pierz. In the Pierz, I have a very nice plan to go on f5 because of this knight that's preventing this bishop here. So they have things like this too. Okay, so let's go here. And a lot of people say that c3 and b4 is a really good plan, including GMs, because it would take out the c5 square. So we're going to try to do that. If they go here immediately, I'll just go back to c2, rook d8, and then queen e2 here, with always b4 intentions. Okay, I think b4 here is fine. Yeah, I like b4. Kind of breaking the rules a bit, anti-pawn structure, anti-positional, but we want this square. They might go this first, on-tempo move. Okay, they don't. Aha, and now if I defend, there's takes, which I didn't see. But then I have bishop b2, and attacking this knight, attacking e5. This should be okay. Crazy line. a3. Standing by my guns. Takes. Do I even takes? No, just bishop b2. And when takes, I take on e5. Triple checking. They might take all the material. So let's say queen takes, takes, and takes. In which here, it would be a queen against a rook and two pieces, I believe. So also an option for them. No, against one rook in one piece, so it's not beneficial. So I'm gaining back this pawn here, and a central pawn at that, which is better. And I'm going to be taking this knight next move effortlessly. Unless they have something spicy. I don't think they will. I'm not seeing anything. I could be way wrong, as we know. Oh, maybe it's just this and taking on e3. Nevertheless, I really, really like my position. Even though I lose a pawn here, I think I even make their position weak here on f6. I think this is a blunder. I think this is really, really good for white. Now, this bishop would have b2, so I need to go rook b1 first to do queen c3 and attack this effectively. I want this bishop to be bad on e7. Be very passive as possible. And now here I like queen c3. Bishop e7 would be pretty forced. And I have knight g3 here. Is this what I want to play? Absolutely. Absolutely what I want to play. It's exactly according to plan. Joga, thank you so much for the follow. So I'm in a pawn deficit. And they have a bishop pair, so I'm down the bishop pair, you could say. But my knights have a special power of attacking very key squares. So they're going to either combine on f5 or combine on f6. And this is where I'm going to play tricks on my opponent. My pieces are active, their pieces are passive. Very important in chess. Very important. Don't you run into a lot of cheaters in Rapid? I don't think I ran into any cheaters today. I have in the past without realizing, and then chess.com reimburses after. But yeah, I guess I've been bad at catching cheaters these days. Back in other Rapid streams, it's been like, wow. So this looks really good for white. I'm not going to lie to you. I have a personal preference here. Queen f4. I don't like the move, but I can't tell you why I don't like it for black. It might be a good move. It's not threatening anything. Maybe f5. Okay. I'm going to go rook e1. My intuition is telling me to do this. Defend this pawn and maybe threaten knight here. Queen here, though. This needs to be solid on f5. So if this, I like this. Bishop here, and I would defend f5, and now we would be equal. Okay. On bishop g4, we have an opportunity to go here and here. And I think we should take it. On this, there's queen here. And then just queen e3, though. Is queen e3 that good? Queen e3, bishop here. I'll be defending. I don't want to defend. Queen here, maybe h3 first. So we mine the bishop. Maybe just knight here. No, bishop takes. Oh, and then takes. Oh, I thought queen e5 was for sure here. Smelling like this would be fire. Straight heat. Okay. Knight f5 attacking the bishop, also vacating maybe the g3 square. If bishop takes, I really like knight takes. Queen's a bit in the scaffold. Just bishop f8. I want to play this so badly because this unveils my queen on f6, which can be lethal. Okay, so either this, which I don't like, or this, which I do like. I like this a lot. We're gonna just go full attack. It's in a twilight zone. Threatening queen g4 check and f4 most probably. My goal is maybe to probably do a rook lift here in the end to take up these two vulnerable squares. This is a very tough game, yes. Okay, and so now is whether I weigh this into the equation. This would actually tempo some things. I kind of like it. There are no defenses to queen h5 that are so attacking for black or so active, which is why this gets my queen off of f3. It's better than queen. It's more active than queen g4 because it's actually imposing something. It's a threat. It's a tempo gaining move. And here we'll go with a rook lift. It vacates this g3 passage. The rook lift can happen now, actually. This is not a possibility. Fun fact. Even though this was taken, right? So this is very interesting. I certainly would take me over them, even though they have two completely open pawns on this side of the board. And now I'm almost fully out of light rev. Whoa. 30s. Okay. 30 on each side. Good vibe? Yeah, good vibe on my face. Not bad. Not bad. Okay, queen e6. Now I really like this. This. Forza Zach. Thanks, Math Keys. That's target audience. To me, very target. Okay, obviously I wouldn't do this. I don't want to trade the great knight for the bad bishop. We're going to go here. Now, the plan is very simple. The plan is very simple indeed. And if the queen was here, like, there's some things. There are some really good things. Check, king here, trading off the bishop, things like this. Okay, bishop here, taking up the g3 square. I don't think this is that good for black. Maybe it's vacating the g8 square here. If this, bishop here, right? So kind of like this first. Rook g8 is probably what they planned. I'll go rook d3, and if they take, I have a mate. So rook d3, if bishop here or bishop anywhere, I have rook here. It's my plan. I have 3 minutes left. It's what I'm going to play. Sorry if it doesn't work. Bishop c7 is their best move. Bishop c7. What would I plan? Bishop c7. Queen takes. What? There's mate. Holy shit! Let's go! Oh my god! Oh my god! We did it! Oh my god! 14 points! So hype! Holy oh my god! Holy moly, we did it. We did it. So fire. Fire moment. Fire moment, you guys. We beat a 2500. Probably my biggest win in Rapid. 86 down. So down. Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much, everyone, for the beautiful comments. I really appreciate everything. So down. Okay, let's see. Okay, so against the Peerts, I told you I have a good result in this boring line. Like, this is grandmasters avoid this, especially with white, because it's just so symmetrical, right? So symmetrical. So castles, knight d2, c6, knight f1, c3. This is fine. It's fine. b4. It's quite a mistake. I mean, I had some little tactics that made it like survival. I believe here it's not the best way to attack the pawn. They're seeing rook d8 first, which we looked at. We definitely mentioned this move. And knight e6. Yeah, knight e6. Knight e6 best. The idea is good, but you don't have to double attack this pawn. Knight e6 does the same result here. And here you have like bishop d6 if you take with the bishop. That makes a lot more sense. So here, knight takes. It's almost -1. Bishop b2, knight takes, bishop takes e5, and now it's like -0.5. Very nice. And this is a huge mistake. Let's go. I loved seeing it because it's a little bit of greediness by my opponent, and this becomes good. So rook b1, inaccurate. Oh, due to queen c5? Okay, what did they want me to do? e5 here? e5. e5. e5, interesting. I always thought of this pawn as the anchor to the f5 square, right? Right? For real. Blue Moon Kid, thank you so much for the follow. Queen c7, queen c3, bishop e7, knight g3, queen f4. We install ourselves little by little. Knight here. Queen e5. How do they miss this? Queen e5. This is unacceptable. 2500. I was dead serious on seeing this. I don't know. Here's what it is. Rook d8. Knight g e5. Best was bringing this one in, because this one is the most vulnerable knight. This one is the most solid. So that's what they're saying. Fair enough. Bishop f8. h3. Bishop takes is a mistake. Now it's equal. Okay, so since the entire time they've had a pawn up, but it's only been less than a pawn up for them, says the engine, because of this weakness. So bishop takes f5, knight takes f5, queen e5, queen f3, king here, queen h5. This is all a draw, like dead on a draw. And now this is flipping the advantage towards me. The first time of the game. Rook e3, bishop d6, and this is winning. Holy moly. Holy moly, I missed this. Rook d3. Putting yourself in a complete blunder. Call an ambulance, but not for me. And this is impossible to defend this double checkmate threat. Black can do checks. F4 is insane, defended by the queen. The same queen threatening 2 checkmates and attacking this queen. Wow. Kinda sus. King always sus here. Rook d3 on purpose. Call an ambulance. Wow. And I guess rook d3, it's really good because we're threatening this. So queen e5 in normal times. Let's just say like b5 here. Yeah, queen h6. Because we are threatening to to make a decoy tactic. Okay, so queen h6, rook g8, rook d3, queen takes here, and this is made in 2. Okay, but this is equal. I was thinking, let's say bishop e5, rook d8 is completely winning, right? Yes. So we have these things down. Reason is, if you take, decoying off the g7 square, and this is checkmate. And bishop c7 I thought was the best move here. Apparently not to g3. So g3 and we have some advantage. Bishop f8. We'll go queen f4. And this is a draw apparently. Like b5, rook d8. I still like how white is managing to break through here. Like with taking up the 8th rank. Now, my opponent blundered and I beat him like that. I would have rather outplay them, but it is what it is. They had the same amount of time as me, and you know, they blundered with the same amount of time. So, and there you have it. That was my best win on chess.com rated rapid in the 10 years that my account has existed since 2012. Here are my 3 tips to beating a 2500 plus player. There was a very scary moment in this game in which there was a desperado, right? My opponent looked like they had completely winning advance of pieces on me, but no matter the rating that you're facing, do not be scared. Calculation is king. Trust yourself and reassure yourself in your calculation. It doesn't lie. All the information is on the board. And that is what got me out of that desperado that was looking shaky, because although I was still losing a pawn, I managed to weaken my opponent's king. That's tip number 2, weaken your opponent's king, which was such a valuable weapon that I used against my opponent who had a weak king. And for the rest of the game, I hyper obsessed around that king, bringing in my pieces together. And with a little bit of luck at the end, my opponent blundered. I had a winning opportunity. But if my opponent had not blundered there, I would have still used the strategy I used throughout the game, which was a ton of tip number 3, patience. Patience in chess is what differentiates a 2000 from a 2200, from a 2400 who has a lot of patience in the movements of the game. I showed a lot of patience here. Not going too aggressive, not doing some overly crazy moves, just weaving my pieces into the net of my opponent's weaknesses and pressurizing as I go in, and eventually my opponent cracked. But yeah, just very aggressive attack is not always the answer and the way to win a game. Sometimes patience and little finicky moves on weaknesses of your opponent can do the job. That is it for today's 4-hour stream. And if you made it this far, congratulations. Here are the 10 final major tips recapping this entire video for your chess career. Number 1 is be okay with losing. I'm not saying fall in love with it, I'm saying be okay with it. Losing happens to everyone and it's the best way to grow. Take your losses with a grain of salt, be curious about them, learn from them, learn where you went wrong. If you lost a game and you don't know your mistake from the game, how you lost, you need to be curious and go find out how you lost so you can learn from that mistake. Which brings me to tip number 2. Review your games. Scan your common mistakes and your weaknesses and learn from them. Just like me, after self-analyzing these 19 games, I can for sure say that I need to work on my French defense because I had 3 losses out of 3 games from then, and that makes me want to work on my French defense. Tip number 3 happened a lot during these 19 games. A common reoccurring factor was calculate through the smokescreen, right? Oftentimes we are scared at a potential move or idea of our opponent and we don't even touch that variation, even in calculation, before we're even considering our next move. Calculate through that smokescreen and objectively evaluate a given line without bias. Tip number 4, attack the opponent king when you can. A lot of my victories today came from attacking the king directly, either in a Sicilian, in which I went, I think, 4 out of 4, or just opposite castled kings, kings in the center, right? So attack a king when it's vulnerable. Tip number 5 is find your style and play with your style of comfort. Obviously, in the last tip, I said that I am a highly attacking player, and that's what I love doing. That's what produces a lot of wins for me. Find what produces wins for you. If you don't like attacking, if you don't like highly risky lines, then play positionally. Find some openings that go positionally and adopt a style from your idols who play positionally to that model. And you'll find some really good results because you'll be happy playing what you play. And in chess, tip number 6 is be bold. Take risks. Even when the calculation is not perfect, take risks in the game of chess. It's also a way to elevate your chess. It's also a way to discover new types of moves that you wouldn't have done before or considered of doing before. And it's a way to discover a new facet to your chess weaponry. Tip number 7 is calculation is key. The more information you can acquire on the present position in front of you, the better outcome of the next move you'll have against your opponent's pieces, for your pieces, and on the board overall. So the more info you know, the better. Tip number 8 is calculate for your opponent at every chance that you have. Please do this. Calculate for your opponent at every move. Try to do it this week. Try to do it in your next game. Just do a rapid game today and just look at all your opponent's plans, their ideas behind their moves. Sometimes they have obvious ideas and you'll be able to find out what they're trying to do in advance and prevent a lot of damage on your structures and even counter their bad bluffs with greater moves that can win you games. So look at what your opponent is doing. It doesn't even have to be threats. Just look at their moves. Tip number 9 is also something I've touched on a lot, is learn your openings. Once you figure out your style, learning your openings in depth. Put in that hard work, put in that memorization. Weapons are a great weapon to not lose in the opening and to surprise your opponents. What better way than to win a game from hard work of pure dedication that is the opening moves that you can memorize, the only moves you can memorize in the game of chess. And finally, if you've come this far in this nearly 4-hour video, I very much thank you. This is tip number 10. It's a bundle. Work hard, be curious, play consistently, play every day, and have fun doing it. The worst way to progress in chess is if you lose your love for it. So if you have a frustrating day, if you have a day that you're off completely, take a break. Let yourself love the game again. Some people, they learn the game when they're young, they loved it, they forget it for 10 years, and they come back into it. That is very common, and your greatest asset when getting better at this game is to keep falling in love with it. I am very proud to say that after 3 weeks of recording this long video, it's finally over, and I want to thank you so much for watching my immense piece of work. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you so much. I can do this for a living maybe one day because of you.